Sometimes I wonder if we are all connected by some kind of universal magnetism or vibration that permeates our being and transmits ideas and feelings among everybody.
I wonder that same thing.
That's right. And the reason is it really does feel like this ridiculously slow news day. Like none of the news is moving me, despite the fact that we've got a new report that another member of the Biden family was receiving cash from China, despite the fact that Poland is sending fighter jets to Ukraine, dramatically escalating the war, causing World War III to trend. All of this is happening, and everybody kind of feels like nothing is happening. And I'm like, why is that? Shouldn't we be like, holy crap, this whole thing is imploding. The banks are failing, or maybe the bubbles burst, right? We've been inundated with too much all at once, and now no one cares at all. World War III is happening. The banks are collapsing. The Biden family is crooked and taking communist money. And then everyone goes, what am I supposed to do about it? So there are your stories for the day. We'll talk all about those things. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com. Click that Join Us button to become a member and support our work directly. As a member, you'll get access to exclusive segments from the Timcast IRL podcast live Monday through Thursday, just about 10 p.m. after we wrap up the live show. We then broadcast a live members only show to the front page of the website. You click the little button, boom, you're there. And then it is archived for you to watch whenever you want. We also have the Discord rolling out very soon with the VIP chat call-in function and the special members only elite club where you can hang out with actual Timcast staff, crew, and reporters in our super special Timcast Club. That sounds pretty fun. So if you want to support our work, that's how you do it. We are a member-driven company, so we rely almost entirely on you guys as members to fund all of this, and we really do appreciate it. So don't forget to also smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more is Angela McArdle.
Hey there, thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Who are you?
I am the chair of the National Libertarian Party and one of the organizers of the recent Rage Against the War Machine rally.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, we had a big conversation about that. That's pretty great. And everybody likes libertarians, except for libertarians.
That's right. We hate them.
That's right. Well, thanks for hanging out. This should be fun. We also got Hannah Claire hanging out.
Hi, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for timcast.com.
And I am Ian Cross, and also considering that God may be permeating through all of us at the same time, individually and collectively.
In all seriousness, though, I do find it weird that there seems to be some kind of emotional spectrum I notice among people where I'll hear someone on social media say that like they're depressed, and then I'll hear the same thing from like 15 other people all at once. Like, why are you all feeling the same way?
I had a message from one of my developers, and he was saying his wife's like I don't know, like a prophet or something. She was like, there's something weird with the magnetic fields right now. If you're feeling down the last 2 weeks, something's going on. You know, they say Mercury goes into retrograde. Mm-hmm. That might have something to do with emotions. But we don't have the tools to calculate it yet.
It could also be everybody reading the same garbage social media, upsetting, depressing news.
I don't know though, because like there was a period where everyone had the exact same cough despite not being around each other. Like it was weird. All of a sudden on the same week, everybody was like, I got this cough going on. And I'm like, how come I'm hearing that from like 50 different people? Well, now I get it. Viruses go around real quick or whatever, but some of these people didn't know each other, you know?
Yeah.
I'll be careful how I phrase it because of where we're streaming to. But if you want to go down a rabbit hole on health, you can look into German New Medicine, which is a very different view of germ theory and virology and the whole thing with health. Very interesting.
Yeah, terrain theory works in its synergy, an opposite to germ theory. The idea that germs float through the air and land on you and duplicate is germ theory. The idea that your terrain, your body itself, if it's in a bad condition, the germs are there no matter what. Yep. If your body's in a bad terrain, then it's going to get sick. And if it's in a healthy terrain, it can fight it off.
The germs are there no matter what. It's like all germs and all diseases are everywhere all at once.
Well, not exactly. Okay, so
we'll save it for the show, but we'll start with Serge.
Oh yeah.
And I am Serge.com. The angle is wide today. We're just going to leave it that way.
Sweet.
All right. Well, let's jump into the first story. It's really hard for me to care about this, to be completely honest. But apparently, like, everybody's tweeting about it. I know World War III is trending. Haley Biden revealed as new Biden family member who got China cash. And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't know, man. There's nothing that the Biden family could be revealed to be doing at this point, which is going to make me go, oh, egad, I can't believe that happened. You know, like, I already think Joe Biden's a pedophile, you know, and that's just my personal opinion. I mean, but I'm pretty sure his son Hunter calls him that, Pedo Pete or whatever. So, like, The fact that Biden's Hunter Biden's sister-in-law turned former lover was subpoenaed, had revealed in subpoenaed bank records that she had received Chinese cash in 2017. I'm just like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do?
They took more money. They
Yeah.
took more money from a place they weren't supposed to take money from.
With no consequences. I mean, is there ever going to be
Shocking.
any...
Shocking.
There's no reason to care about it because nothing will happen. I mean, of course you should be outraged, but do we expect anyone to be prosecuted for this? No,
I have
realistically.
Biden family fatigue.
Right.
And then
I
the
have
deep
fatigue
fakes.
on all of it. Like even so, it's with the Polish stuff. I don't want to get into too much of the Ukraine war because we're talking about Biden's. But just as an aside, we were talking about the downing of the U.S. drone, and then I can't remember who said it, but they were like, this will be used as a pretext to send jets to Ukraine, and it's like, oh sure. And like a day later, it literally happens. We were talking with Steve Bannon last week, and he's like, guys, come Monday, they're going to tell you to bail out this bank. Say no. Literally the next morning, they're like, we're bailing out the bank. And so it's just like, did the system break? Like, is it just done?
We've all seen this film before.
Yeah,
we
like
know what's going to happen.
It's and not just that, but like the system has shattered to the point where people are just doing whatever they feel like doing, regardless of the consequences.
Yeah, the power. It's starting to become more apparent that power is what controls society, really. I mean, love and caring and all that crap, it's important to build stable societies, but power will do what power wants. Power takes.
Well, maybe, okay, so I have an optimistic view on this underwhelming, awful story. Maybe that means no war with China. Everything's fine. Biden family's corrupt. They're taking money from China. Good relationship there. We're all saved. Yay.
No, I think it means war with China because what's going to happen is the Bidens are corrupt. They're destroying the economy. Their policy, his policies are trash. He's not paying attention. He doesn't care. He's completely incapable, even if he did care. And the economy is in free fall. Banks are collapsing. Credit Suisse is next. And that collapse is going to lead to a dramatic transformation in this country, one way or the other. And the end result is going to be the weakening of the country and China taking an opportunity to strike. China's already told the United States, you are not negotiating from a position of power. So anything that happens at this point, even Donald Trump getting reelected, that'll be an upswing in my opinion. But China's going to be like, uh-oh, Donald Trump's winning in the polls. We better strike now before he wins.
What kind of strike?
Taiwan.
Okay.
Right. And then Southeast Asia destabilizes or falls under Chinese communist influence. We lose that influence. I don't know how much I care about that. Because I'm at the point where I'm kind of resigned to millennials and Gen Z in this country need to learn how to break rocks and chop wood or something because they are so entitled and lazy. This country is going to fall apart unless we actually teach them how to. I don't know. Look, they're doughy soy boys. Yeah, our country is not going to survive if it's being led by doughy soy boys, and it is.
I've been watching a lot of carpentry videos. It's pretty sweet. Joinery, joining wood. I mean, you don't need nails. You just cut the right angles and then set it on itself, and you create these super structurally sound.
Yeah.
things.
Sorry, go ahead.
Have you seen the Japanese ones? They're like weird and they like
Yeah.
stick together and like lock in place. Very cool stuff.
There are all kinds of skills that we used to have that we are forgetting. Like I grew up in New England, so there are lots of stone walls. Well, there used to be people who could assemble stone walls with no cement because they knew how to identify the way the rocks would bounce, and they stood for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I knew a man who this was his family trait. Like he learned it from his grandfather, and his son was unfortunately addicted to opioids, was not in a position to learn it, and he died before he could pass it on to his grandchild. That's a whole generation of people who built stone walls, and that skill is completely gone. Like there are all kinds of handy skills that we just gave up because we believe that we are a completely internet laptop bound generation.
I kind of think like the doughy soy boys are going to result in a very shattered, tattered, and destroyed government,
Maybe.
which will create a hard time, which will result in strong times. Like I don't think anyone needs to make someone chop wood. They're going to have to chop wood themselves because otherwise they'll freeze to death. It's just the economy is failing. You know, whether intentionally or otherwise, controlled demolition, call it what you want. And these doughy soy boys are going to go out one day and be like, where's the heater? And it's going to be like, there ain't one. You best learn how to make a wood stove and chop some wood. And if they can't, well, then they'll simply freeze to death.
Doughy is a generous description, I think.
Doughy?
I think they're not all so
They're
doughy.
wet noodles.
Wet noodles is probably
Wet
more
noodle?
appropriate, yeah.
Well, some of them are pretty doughy, though.
Too much glutens.
Too much gluten.
That's where you get the dough.
I don't know, man. I'm seeing all these videos of people being like, I was misgendered. And it's just like,
It's so sad.
wow.
It's disturbing.
China's going to walk into the United States and they're going to
They already
cry.
have, but in the way they're buying farmland, that's the way they're walking in. Same
Yep.
with Taiwan. What they'll do is they'll get them to vote it to be China because they'll have spies there that overthrow the government without anyone knowing. There won't be guns and shot. No one wants to fire guns, really. I'm with you. I don't think that China and the U.S. are going to war. I think this is actually indicative that it won't, that they've been trying to avoid World War III, which is why they're building a new world order, and they're happy to sell out. Now, whether or not peaceful slavery is better than a war, I don't know.
Or, I mean, if the United States dollar is no longer the unit of measurement that the whole world uses to sort of, measure itself against, if the dollar just goes away and Chinese currency rises to the top, that could be another thing. Maybe the United States isn't going to go to war with any other major world power. Maybe we're just going to become irrelevant.
Yeah, but as long as we have strong borders, I'm cool with it. But if we don't, and then it becomes a unipolar Chinese communist world, that would really, really suck.
But as long as we're not at war and there's not troops on our ground in the United States, I don't really care. Like, I don't believe in the United States global hegemony. I'm not for that. And if that goes away, if our military bases across the globe go away, I'm okay with that.
What happens 10 years after that?
Maybe nothing. I mean, how about other
China's
countries?
already expanding into Africa, South America. They have the Belt and Road Initiative. So if we go away, China fills that vacuum, and they're real nasty people. The Chinese communists. Sorry.
One Belt, One Road hasn't been very financially successful, though.
But yeah, I'm not sure that matters so much. I mean, a lot of what the U.S. does is predicated upon just military might, and the financial stuff makes no sense. They're going to infuse $2 trillion in loans to try and keep liquidity in a collapsing system. They'll just do whatever. Well, it doesn't last forever. You've got China right now raping and torturing Uyghur Muslims. So it's kind of like, man, I don't know if I want to live in a world where they're the dominant military superpower. I'm not saying that's happening anytime soon, but not that I like what the U.S. does overseas. I think it's BS for the most part. But I'm also willing to recognize that the world's going to fall under the control of one group at some point.
Okay.
It's, there's that famous quote, I think it was from, was it Nathaniel Rothschild or something? And he said, globalism, it's not a question of like how it will happen, it's a question of, or if it's not a question of if it will happen, it's a question of when, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it or something like that. You want to look up the quote?
Yeah.
But it hasn't happened yet.
But what people misunderstood, I think, with that quote is they ascribe it to him as though he's saying he is going to make it happen and there is nothing anyone can do to stop him. When I think what he was really saying was the natural trend of power structures is to coalesce and the world will fall under one governing authority. It already has, for the most part, the SWIFT payment system. Whether or not that holds out for a total, executive authority, whether we advance to that point with the United States and the West, I'm not sure. It could be that China does it. It could be a Chinese communist global authority. Right now, it's like, I think China's basically winning, and that's why we refer to a lot of the Davos Group stuff and the World Economic Forum stuff as like CCP, Chinese-style communism.
Absolutely.
So it's like the U.S. is already losing this one.
I can't find this quote. I know what you're talking
Rothschild.
about, though. Was it a Rothschild quote for sure?
Pretty sure.
What do you see, Angela, like is a better, because I don't like the military-industrial complex at all. I mean, I'm starting to gain respect for what it has done, which is prevent World War III, prevent communist slavery. Like, I'm allowed to say, I'm allowed to criticize Joe Biden.
Sure.
I'm cool with that.
I mean, I'm not convinced that we have staved off China taking over the United States. I'm not convinced that China actually has that in their sights. I'm not convinced that that's in their aim. Do I like Chinese communism? No, I think communism is really horrendous, but I don't actually believe that they're dead set on trying to take us over and that our giant military power is the only thing that's staving them off.
What do you think China's objective is? Like, why are they making investments in other countries?
I think that they want to become a financial superpower.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's really what they want. And I think that that's
But why would they want that if not to like be in control?
Well, there's different types of control, right? Like if you don't feel comfortable with bloody World War III warfare, why not just try to get as much financial control as possible and become the financial superpower? I don't think that it's the same as going out and committing acts of mass murder. I'm very wary of a social credit system and anything like that. Anything ESG, social credit, anything that smacks of CCP. But I'm not so much worried about troops on the ground over here or on Mexico. I feel like China invades should become a new drinking game. Like every time someone brings up China invades, take a drink.
Yeah, it's a wonderful boogeyman. You can always say, those guys that don't speak my language, and they can't disprove it because they don't speak English. No one will listen to them anyway.
Right.
You guys are saying that China will not invade Taiwan?
I was saying they would not invade the United States.
Oh, well, I mean, that's very different.
Yes, very
Oh, they'll
different.
take Taiwan in 2 seconds. They got.
I'm not so sure about Taiwan. Taiwan is very, very touch and go, I think. I think it would be opportunistic. I think that's what's going to happen.
So there are some. So it depends on your definition, I suppose. There are some islands that are part of Taiwan that are extremely close to mainland China, which are already at risk, but they're like rocks, so it's not. No one really cares. But China's already sent fighter jets into Taiwanese air defense zones. They've already done this. They've already blockaded the island multiple times.
They're also building islands.
Yeah, they're building a lot of military bases on artificial islands. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess.
My question is like, what would be better than the military-industrial complex? I feel like the liberal economic order is the military-industrial complex, that order of economics that American led. And then it's evolving into this new world order of some sort. We're creating a global economy, a global system. What would be better? What's the evolution that you see that would be better than the military bases all over Earth?
Isolationism.
But
I mean, in a perfect world, I'm very, very pro free trade. I think that when goods don't cross borders, troops will. Free trade would be definitely like what I think we should have. And I think that, cryptocurrency and especially Bitcoin is something that makes that possible so that you can sort of bypass all of this World Economic Forum BS. But if we can't achieve that, then I would just want isolationism.
What isolationism, I think, is kind of accepted that's the reason World War II kicked off the way it kicked off, because the United States didn't want to get involved until it was too late.
I think that it would have gone just fine if the United States had not gotten involved. I don't think the U.S. intervention was necessary in World War II.
Really?
Really.
I mean, it was the Russians and the Germans versus France and Britain.
I think they were already winning.
The British? It was just the French were taken over in 2 weeks, and then the British.
No, not French. No, not the French. The British. I think the British were already winning the war when we got in. I think they were going to win. It was going to be ugly victory, pretty brutal, but they were already bringing it home.
I guess the U.S. had funded them throughout the war.
Supplied weapons. So I have a collection of old Life magazines that I bought in an antique store. It's really cool to read about. It was 3 months before D-Day. There were reports that the U.S. was staging weapons in the U.K. for defensive purposes. And only now do we look back on history and go, they were planning on invading.
The Lend-Lease program.
So there are photos of all of this crazy U.S. military ordnance and materials in the U.K. We had been, if it was the British soldiers that were winning, it was because we were basically giving them weapons.
Yeah, and keep in mind that Nazi Germany was collapsing on the inside too. They had totally burned through all of their artillery. Their economy was just absolutely just going up in smoke. It was a disaster over there. So they pushed really hard with German blitzkrieg strategy through everything that they had at the war, and then it just ran out. So that was it's not just like the United States came in and just yay, war over. There was so many things going on in that war.
In an isolationist state, if we were, would that just be, you mean national isolationism? A couple questions. Where would it stop? How local would the isolation become?
I think it would be the federal government just pulling out of as many things internationally as possible.
And then what if foreign countries start polluting the air or destroying the ecosystem, and then we're like, hey guys, stop, and they're like, nah.
Well, I mean, they already are.
But we have bases kind of with nukes pointed at them, and you're like, you're going to stay in the Paris Accord, you're going to do these things.
That's like
not
ESG.
Not that it's a winning strategy, but there's a deterrent to completely annihilating your environment for profit.
I don't know if that's a really a big concern that everyone has. I think right now developing countries are polluting so that they can catch up with the rest of the first world, and maybe that's okay. China is definitely heavy on pollution. I don't know that they care that much.
What about space colonization? If we were isolationist and not involved in China's colonization of Mars, or if we weren't doing it together,
take it to the moon.
You don't think that would result in war if we isolate?
That'll definitely result in war.
Explain it again.
If we're not doing it together.
Let's not even go that far. Say Antarctica.
What about Antarctica?
Should the U.S. have territory in Antarctica?
Who cares?
The research scientists in Antarctica.
But why do we care about what they care about? It's Antarctica. It's a chunk of ice.
For now.
So,
when it melts, it's going to be a lot
by
of
that
oil.
logic, you're saying that none of what the United States does matters outside of the United States.
Not very much.
So, scientific research done outside of this country is irrelevant.
I don't think it's irrelevant, but I don't think it's worth going to war over.
So then,
Back it up.
what's your view of a functioning country then? I mean, Antarctica, I think, is an interesting question for libertarians in this regard
Sure.
because there's limited claims. It's like everybody has a sliver of it.
Yeah.
And there's extremely important research being done there, particularly drilling into the ice and then tracking the state of the planet over the past 10,000 years or whatever. And the fossil records and things like that is going to grant us a tremendous amount of information, which can probably be applied to evolutionary biology, which can potentially be applied to genetics or who knows what. So we should just say, nah, we should ignore all potential new territories to foreign countries.
I would not go to war over Antarctica. That's how I would draw the line.
What if there's like a new material discovered on the moon that will allow China to make a devastating new weapon? And we are there and we have a base, and like, should we just abandon the base and be like, we don't want to get into a conflict with China because they're interested in the space?
Well, that's pretty far out there. I mean, are you going
Well, that's why I say
resources
Antarctica.
on the moon? Yeah.
What if China starts making advancements in Antarctica, pressing into the U.S. borders? Should we retreat because we don't want to go to war?
I think it really depends. It's a cost-benefit analysis, and sometimes you do have to cede ground. That's what I'm kind of arguing and advocating for in the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
I mean, the difference with Ukraine is that it's useless to us. It's a NATO.
Yeah.
NATO wants this territory to expand. They want to expand their influence. Russia doesn't want to give up control of a border, of a land bridge to one of its only warm water. I think it's only warm water port in the Black Sea. Mm-hmm. So they're saying no. NATO has no real interest in it other than there's pipelines running through it, and they want to get energy from the Qatar-Turkey pipeline up into Europe to lower the cost of gas. But that's an economic thing based on gas. And the United States and NATO are unwilling to give that up to Russia, despite the fact that Russia had it in the first place. So in this instance, it's the U.S. pushing on Russia to take from them. It's an inversion to the analogy of Antarctica.
So it's interesting. What about diplomacy? Because that's something that's been really missing in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And I think that diplomacy is something that the United States should always employ, no matter what the conflict is.
The U.S. and the West tried diplomacy with Syria, and Syria said no.
Well, can you expand on that a little bit? Because there was a lot going on.
The
over there.
Western forces wanted a pipeline running through Syria, Turkey, into Europe to offset the Gazprom gas monopoly. Syria said no, this would upset our ally Russia.
Well, I think that we have not been treating Russia with a lot of respect, and we have to respect that Syria has a relationship with them sometimes.
I think Russia should surrender because going to war with the United States is not worth it to defend territory that's not part of Russia.
In which respect?
Both
With
Syria and Ukraine.
I would love if they did.
Yeah,
but-
they should have let the U.S. just take all that land.
Oh.
Well, why not?
I mean, it's none of our business, right? Ultimately, I would think we should not be involved in any of those conflicts.
Well, it's not Russia, so why is it Russia's business?
It's not our business to police the world.
So if we're in Antarctica minding our own business and China starts expanding, we should retreat because it's none of our business.
I think the first thing we should do is try to engage in diplomacy and see what's going on there.
And then when that fails, we should retreat because it's none of our business.
Potentially.
So when it came to building a pipeline through Syria, Russia should have said, Syria, let the United States do whatever they want because going to war is not worth it. Give them the pipeline. When it came to Ukraine, Russia should have said, no, diplomacy has failed, but war is worse. So we should retreat and give our border states to NATO in the West because it's not worth going to war over.
I think our position should always be diplomacy. I don't think that we can always, sure, in a perfect world, everyone should be diplomatic, but we can only be accountable for our own actions.
Right. I guess my issue is Russia there's I think like Latvia and Estonia are on the border. And NATO absorbs them, and now they've got NATO on their border, which was like there were treaties saying that we wouldn't do this, and it ends up happening anyway. Ukraine is on their border, and they are selling gas legitimately through Gazprom and other natural gas companies through a pipeline into Europe. But the United States doesn't like that Russia makes money off this to this degree, and they don't like how much they charge for it. So the United States goes to Syria and says, we want to run a pipeline through your country. Syria says no. Diplomacy fails. The U.S. decides to destabilize Syria in a matter of speaking. They say Assad is gassing his own people and he's a bad guy. And sure, probably, I don't know. But either way, it's so darn convenient for the U.S. that Syria destabilizes. It's so darn convenient for the U.S. that Ukraine destabilizes. And then Russia takes a land bridge in the eastern portion into Crimea, where it annexes Crimea because it has a warm water port there. The argument is Russia should let us do whatever we want because we are not in Russia. We are in other countries. No one should stand in our way when the United States does whatever it wants because Russia is not Ukraine, because Syria is not Russia. Russia should not have gotten involved at all. And that also means if Russia sends military forces into Mexico and weapons and starts building military bases and sending weapons there, we should be totally okay with it and let them do whatever they want, because Mexico is not the United States.
So it sounds to me from all of this that the United States needs to scale back its military dramatically, and maybe we don't deserve to have a little bit of land in Antarctica since we're taking it from everywhere else across the
Well, then
country.
Russia doesn't deserve to have it either, but why are they taking it? Who's gonna stop them from doing it?
Welcome to the human condition.
That's right. And so the issue at hand is there is no simple answer where the United States is the bad guy. Every country is doing the exact same thing.
Maybe this is like an Ian point when it coming back to power, and the United States has the most military power, and there is a little bit of an imbalance right now.
They may have. I'm not so sure that's the case anymore. The United States economy is in the gutter. I mean, it's not just the United States, it's NATO, and it is a massive military power, but there's also strengths and weaknesses. So technologically, in terms of air superiority, I think the U.S. is, typically heralded as the most powerful. In terms of aircraft carriers, there's a lot of things, but China has the largest standing ground army.
Yes.
I think North Korea has a crap ton of ground troops as well. And the important thing that people need to realize is a fighter jet can't occupy a street corner. So while we may have the capability to wipe out a whole country with a barrage of MIRVs, nuclear warheads, or, bombard a city with a fighter jet, when it comes to actually controlling territory, we are not the most powerful in terms of being able to do that. We would need a combined force to actually try and do it. And if you look at Afghanistan and Iraq, not so easy for us to pull off, or especially Vietnam. So anyway, long story short, we do have a lot of power, and the United States does do a lot of things we don't like. The issue is there's no simple answer in if the argument is we shouldn't be doing it because none of our business, the same argument applies to any other country, China, Russia, or otherwise, and no one's stopping them from doing it. It's basically, I look at it like water flowing downhill. Sure, you might be like, we should try and stop that water flowing downhill. It's like, dude, it's water flowing downhill. You know what I mean? We want to prevent war for sure. I don't know how you go about doing that when all of these forces are set to collide with each other. I certainly think what the U.S. is doing in many ways is complete BS, and we should not be in Ukraine because we are basically sending our interests into a border country with Russia, and of course Russia's pissed. And then who was it on TV said, I think it was Kamala Harris. She was on Colbert and she was like, Vladimir Putin's committing crimes against humanity, and everyone starts clapping and cheering. And I'm like, these goons clapping, I don't even know what they're talking about. Vladimir Putin's certainly not a good dude by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not like the U.S. is either.
Right.
It's a bunch of crackpot warmongers fighting for power and control, and it's all basically the same crap as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, we need to get out of entangling alliances, and it is incredibly entangled right now, and try to engage in diplomacy. And it's unfortunate that the people in positions of power are not inclined to do so because they generate financial wealth based on all these tragedies happening across the globe.
I think the big problem is Donald Trump's a strong guy. He's a strong man, quite literally. That's what they call him. And he was working towards peace with, say, North Korea and South Korea. He signed the Abraham Accords. There was a lot that he was doing to try and simmer things down, but from a position of strength. Joe Biden is corrupt, and I don't think actually cares about anything other than the hard numbers.
Yeah.
Which is why we're reading a story about his family's getting money from China. He didn't care about China. He just wants money for himself and his family. That is going to lead to war. That is going to lead to the conflict and the downfall. Because that is what ends up providing massive funding to the military-industrial complex. A corrupt family saying something like, look, I don't care if we blow up 100,000 civilians. How much do I get in kickbacks? And then all of a sudden, 10% for the big guy. So his kids get paid, then he gets a cut of the salary, and then the world falls to crap. That seems to be what the Biden family's been all about for the past decade or several decades, honestly. And Donald Trump was like, let's have peace, defend our borders, bring manufacturing back. And I'm like, all of those are good things. But when you have a system of neoliberal crony capitalism, then you're going to end up with a corporate press that wants to make money. They will do whatever they have to do to make money, and that means they'll pony up for any intelligence agency that wants to maintain power.
Yep.
They'll say whatever the advertisers want them to say. They'll push whatever narrative is generating money for them. They won't push back against the politicians. See, the thing is, these networks, they want PAC money. When it comes election season, oh boy, you're going to get paid. So if you're NBC, for instance, and you keep telling the truth about the Biden family, well, all of a sudden, the Biden PACs aren't buying ads anymore. I mean, that's tens of billions of dollars you might lose over the course of a few election cycles. Your best bet is to shut your mouth, say nothing. Donald Trump didn't spend nearly as much money as Hillary Clinton did. And that's part of the reason why we see so many TV channels ragging on Trump. He doesn't buy from them. He doesn't give them money, so they don't care. Hillary Clinton's people were spending tons of money on the media, and they're like, we don't want to lose these customers. They're paying the bills. So this is a big problem. Anyway, long story short.
That's why independent media is so important.
You know, my problem with isolationism, I keep thinking about World War II, like the way that the French saw Hitler growing his military rapidly, and then with the eyes in the East and the Sudetenland and stuff. But the French were just like, we're not going to stop them. We're live and let live. We'll use diplomacy. Hitler was like, yeah, we're great friends. Yeah, we're just going to build some more tanks. We're great friends. Violating treaties, building tanks. And the French were like, we're just going to have a strong defense, a defensive border wall. And the Germans just plowed through it. The Ardennes forest. They built the Maginot Line, this huge defensive trench line, series of trenches. And they're like, no, nothing can get through this. But there's this thick, dense forested area called the Ardennes Forest. And the Germans took these new technological things, these tanks, these Panzer tanks, never seen before, just plowed through the forest into France, into Paris, like in a week. So if you just sit there and wait and just hope that he's going to go say what he's going to do, like they're going to find a technology that can breach your defenses. That's my fear of isolationism.
Well, it's definitely not preferable to me over free trade and diplomacy and positive international relations, but I prefer it over globalism for sure. Globalism would, yuck.
I think globalism is inevitable, and it's because power coalesces no matter what. I'm not saying that global communism is inevitable, but trade lines will inevitably result in international agreements, which will eventually result in international law enforcement, which will ultimately result in international courts, which will ultimately result in international legislative bodies, and then you have globalism. We basically have it now.
I want the ability to be able to opt out of globalism. I don't want global rule to be something that everyone is subject to. Does that make sense?
So like a
No, I
decentralized
get it, but it's
governance,
yeah.
Global governance?
But I think no matter what happens, it will be there.
Well, Interpol already exists.
I mean, look, you can go and live in the woods, and for the most part, you're fine. But if you want to be in this system, the system is increasingly coalescing around itself. Like it's forming a hard shell.
Yeah.
If you're in it, you're in it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, it used to be that if you committed a serious crime, look, let's go back to the 1800s. If you were a train, like a bandito, and you robbed a train and killed some guy, you could ride off 1,000 miles west, change your name, and nobody would have any idea. That'd be the end of it. You'd go from being John Smith to Jack Williams, and people would be like, "Oh, how do you?" Be like, "I'm just coming up, and here's the work that I did, and I'm looking for a job," and that was it. You can't do that today. If you're in the United States and you commit a crime, and you go to a foreign country, they're going to find you, and they're going to, depending on if they have an extradition treaty, it is all increasingly becoming one small world where you're going to be. Look. You want to know the evidence of globalism already happening? Every single city I've gone to, the tourist districts have the exact same stores.
sure.
They've got Dolce, they've got whatever. They got Starbucks, McDonald's, Hard Rock Cafe, Bubba Gump Shrimp. One of the most brutal things ever was when I went to the Bahamas. I think, is that where it is, Nassau? Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. It's like a different country basically. And you get off the boat. And I walk in and I'm like, am I in Times Square? Like, it's the same thing. It's identical. And then you walk in. Here's the best part. I remember when I started traveling the world for Vice. And I'm like, oh, man, do I have to do anything special for the currency? And they're like, no. And I'm like, no? No, you have a credit card, right?
Dude,
yeah.
It's hard to
Any
deny.
country you go to, you swipe your Visa, good to go.
I feel like you'd need multiple countries to agree to be isolationist. Like outside of the US, I'm not sure which countries could successfully pull off being truly isolationist. Like maybe Australia, but really everyone else is so linked. I mean, I think of European countries that need each other to traffic oil or to traffic food. I mean, wouldn't you need a coalition of countries saying we're just going to stick to ourselves? Otherwise, you make yourself incredibly vulnerable.
I mean, the Donald Trump's kind of America First policy sounds kind of isolationist, right? Bringing manufacturing back, not engaging in trade.
But
with
outside
other
the U.S.,
countries.
who else could pull that off?
That's a good question. I bet there are countries that do it. They're just not. They're not as cozy and comfortable as we are.
And I don't think Americans are willing to give that up, to be honest.
Well, Tim thinks we should all be in the forest chopping trees, right, and building walls.
I think that millennials and Gen Z are doughy soy boys for the most part. And that's why they're entitled. That's why they cry and complain. That's why they vote for ridiculous policy that makes no sense. That's why California is now proposing reparations, despite the fact California is a free state and has always been a free state. It was admitted as a free state. And the best part is you only have to identify as black. You don't have to actually be. It's crazy, isn't it?
So Rachel Dolezal.
So Rachel Dolezal she would qualify if she lived there.
Okay.
So if Rachel Dolezal lived in San Francisco for 13 years and had a family member that was incarcerated due to the war on drugs, she would qualify for the $5 million. None of it makes any sense. These people need to experience a cold winter where someone comes in and says, it's time to chop wood or we freeze to death. And then they can realize what a good day of hard work really means and why you should not steal from other people.
Wilderness survival camp.
Well, I don't know. All I'm saying is these are people who are voting to steal from people. They're saying that the reparations are going to cost $600,000 per family in San Francisco to cover the cost of the reparations. So what they're doing is they're saying if you identify as black, not if you are, and you're over 18, you then have to qualify for 2 of 8 different criteria. One of which is you're the descendant of somebody who was enslaved in the United States, despite the fact that California is a free state. One of them is have a descendant or yourself be incarcerated due to the war on drugs, which is nebulous. What does that even mean?
But they're
it's like, well, I went to jail for marijuana, so
they're still putting people away for using drugs in California.
well, that's one box checked. And then if so, what was the other one? You have to be incarcerated or have a family member who was incarcerated. And then what was the other one I just said? It's like
lived in San Francisco for a certain amount of time.
13 years. So
Yeah.
you could intentionally get arrested on a drug charge, go serve a little bit of time, get out and be like $5 million.
yes.
Amazing.
If you lived in SF for at least 13 years,
Amazing.
And you
identify as black for at least 10 years and are over 18, then yeah.
That is a get rich scheme. That's amazing.
Well, I don't know if they're actually going to do it.
I hope
But-
they don't. It doesn't.
I hope they do. I absolutely hope they do.
Since I've moved out, I'm kind of like burn it all down. I feel very bitter about what they did to California. I'm like, go ahead and burn.
When did
burn.
you leave?
We moved in September. We moved to Austin, Texas.
What city were you in?
LA, briefly for a little bit of time in Newport Beach, which is a really nice area, but same tax rates, everything else, and it was creeping in.
This is why. Oh, what's the last thing you said?
Everything else about California was creeping in.
These reparations, you might think it's going to repair something, which is what the word reparation is supposed to entail, but it's going to create many more problems. If you take $600,000 from one family and then give it to another family, the government does that. You don't think that's going to create animosity between the people that got $600,000 taken?
Especially when it's going to bankrupt the city no matter what, even if you take money away from someone else. So you are hurting everyone who's there and giving wealth to some people just to create a city where it's chaos. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
All right, so I got it right here. Here's the list. You must be an individual who has identified as black or African American on public documents for at least 10 years. You must be at least 18 years or older. Then you must also meet 2 of these 8 criteria and be able to prove it. Born in San Francisco between 1940 and 96 and have proof of residency for at least 13 years. Migrated to SF between 1940 and 1996 and have proof of residency for at least 13 years. Personally, or the direct descendant of someone incarcerated by the failed war on drugs. Record of attendance in San Francisco public schools during the time of the consent decree to complete desegregation within the school system. Descendant of someone enslaved through U.S. chattel slavery before 1865. Displaced or the direct descendant of someone displaced. Listed or the direct descendant of a certificate of preference holder or a member of this one's great. Member of an historically marginalized group that experienced lending discrimination in San Francisco between 1937 and 1968, or subsequently experienced lending discrimination in the formerly redlined San Francisco communities between 1968 and 2008. Basically, it's extremely easy to qualify for the reparations program. So let's break it down. Rachel Dolezal, if she identifies as black, does that mean she is a member of a marginalized group? If the first criteria is only identification and not actual genetic testing, she would also qualify for being a member of a marginalized group then, because she identifies as such. She would then only need to live in San Francisco before 1996. So how many people live down there who are like Rachel Dolezal, have never been found out, who are going to get paid even though they're like white as white can be?
Oh, there's going to be so many. Oh, there's going to be a long line.
But it sounds like if you're a white person that identifies as black, that doesn't get you to become a member of a marginalized community, which if you're assuming
It
the
does.
black community.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
you only identify as it. You're not actually it. So it's different.
How do you prove it?
No. Hold on.
'Cause
This
there's
is why you're wrong. If you look at the criteria, it says an individual who has identified as black, African American on public documents for at least 10 years. The main criteria that you have to have is that you have to be 18.
Oh, okay.
And if that is their hard line standard, then I certainly believe the member of a historically marginalized group is a lower standard, or the same standard. In which case, if their argument is you have to identify as black, I really doubt they would change their view on what it means to be a member for a different part of the same criteria.
They're trying to lock out people that are black that identify as white. I think that's what that first.
by
Well-
letting in people who are white who identify as black.
And I'm trying to confirm
Yeah.
it right now, but I think Rachel Dolezal, as a female, could claim she's part of a marginalized group.
Oh yeah, boom, there you go.
Well, I mean,
Oh, and absolutely, women
What about
experience lining discrimination, hands
Left-handed
down,
people?
no question.
Left-handed people. It's a
Mental-
No,
right-handed
no,
world.
hold
isn't
on.
it?
Women couldn't get credit cards.
Yeah. San Francisco recognizes women or sex discrimination as,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, boom. So Rachel Dolezal, she is a member of a historically marginalized group. She's over 18. She identifies as black. So what else does she need? She just needs to have lived in San Francisco, and she would qualify for reparations. Dude, that is fantastic. I hope they give this money out, seriously.
It doesn't have like an income or a net worth
many-
criteria. You can
No,
How many
$5 million bucks and a $1 house.
how many people do you think qualify who live in city
Oh,
San
man, it's
Francisco?
going to be funny because it's going to be like half the city.
Yeah, it's amazing.
People are going to be like, first of all, like almost every woman qualifies. Like, that's just it.
It's going to be worse than a bank run. It's going
There's-
to be wild.
But I guess you have to identify on public documents that you're black. So that's a big one because you couldn't have foreseen this. I mean, maybe some people could.
It's pretty insulting to the black community for people who are actual descendants
well,
of
we all know
slaves.
Rachel Dolezal, but I wonder how many people have been claiming they're black in San Francisco for years, right? Like, she's the one who got caught, but that doesn't mean she is the only person in America
Right.
who has done this. Like, I think there will be
Oh,
people.
so many people.
Yeah,
are
is it
going
Sean
to
King
now.
White?
He has never confirmed it.
The jury's out on that one. I don't know. I can't tell.
I mean, he looked white. And then there was that document, the police arrest report that called him white, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
My buddy's a black albino. Talked about him on the Victor Varnado. Shout, what's up, Victor? Yeah, albino dude. He's white as me, but he's black dude, apparently, whatever that means. But his ancestry is like African, I believe. It's wild.
And
There's, I don't remember what country, but there's a nation in Africa that has the highest rate of albinism in the world. It's like just a genetic.
They used to
conflict.
think they were witches and they would like burn them at the
Oh,
stake.
even now it's incredibly dangerous because
Yeah.
there's all kinds of
still-
like
Still like that.
I don't know what to call it, but like lore about, you know, the bones or flesh of people who have albinism.
Wow.
I hope they do the reparations.
You do?
Yeah, because it'll
Yeah.
be really funny to watch from
Yeah.
afar. To
San
see all the white
Francisco.
liberals be like, the roads aren't paved.
Yeah.
And there's poop everywhere. And then they go to the city hall meetings and they're like, why isn't this getting done? And they're going to be like, because we spent $5 trillion in taxpayer money to give people $5 million. What did you think?
San Francisco needs to be punished. That place needs to be punished. God said he'd never flood the earth. Let's send this reparations bill instead.
You know, we should be careful about praying for punishment to the city because there might be an earthquake. That thing's been terrorized by the San Andreas fault line
well,
in the past.
let's not do that. Let's just make it absurdity.
All right. There are, as of 2021, 815,000 people in San Francisco. The metro itself is bigger. 5% of that population is black, so giving us around 40,000 or so people. So simply put,
40,000 times 5 million.
5 million. Let's do some quick math there. And, oh man, that's a lot of zeros. So what is that, 20 trillion?
What?
Is that 20 trillion?
Where is this number?
I think it's is that $20 trillion?
That sounds fun.
So let me see.
It's
It's
commas up in that.
200 trillion.
$200 trillion.
Wait, 200 billion? No, I think it's 200 trillion. Trillion? Everyone in the chat's going to be like, dude, it's 200 trillion.
They're doing the math.
$200 trillion.
That's not even in existence. How is
Just a regular number.
Okay, to be fair, not every single black person in that city is going to qualify, right?
No,
No,
but,
because you have to be over 18.
but when you add in all of the other people who are going to lie so that they do qualify, could be even more than 40,000.
I mean, the other part is like, what if they roll this out, realize they can't comply with the measures they put out, they have to say, wait, we're going back to the drawing board and making stricter regulations. Like then
No, it's 200 billion.
Then the people who thought they were going to
$200
get
billion.
this payout are going to be livid.
Are you
right?
sure?
Yep.
I'm tracking
200
200
billion.
trillion as well. It's
Right.
You said it was
No, it's 200
It's going to be
billion.
crazy. That,
40.
I mean,
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5 million times 40,000.
200 billion. 40,000 times 5 million.
Yeah,
$200 billion.
No. That's trillion.
No, I'm pretty sure it's $200 billion.
I'm intentionally not looking.
200
so I
billion.
don't say the
Look,
wrong
Oh
thing.
yeah, you're right. 200 billion.
200 billion.
That's weird. God, what the?
Well, let's do something else.
200 billion. That's not that much.
Total budget for San Francisco.
Nice.
Total SF
5
budget
million.
2022. It's 14 billion. They're also going to give homes out for $1. I would like everybody listening to do the right thing and advocate for San Francisco to implement this policy. Make it happen.
What if it works?
Then great. Good for them. Why would I be mad?
Yeah.
Because then they'll do it to your city.
No, wait, what?
But if it works,
who
it's
cares?
okay. Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, everyone's holding hands and singing songs under rainbows. I'd be like, well, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
It worked.
It'll be fine.
Problem
Yeah.
solved. But it's not going to work. It's going to destroy San Francisco, and I'm here for it. I'll get the popcorn.
San Francisco's already pretty shredded. It's an awful place right
There's
now.
poop everywhere.
It is.
Look,
It's
man,
not a good scene.
If they voted for it, they deserve it.
The first day I went to San Francisco, I was going to move there, and I parked my car and went to look at the apartment. When I came out, my window was smashed and my bag had been stolen with my laptop, everything. Lesson learned, man. Dirty city with a lot of desperate
That's sad.
people.
That's so sad.
Yeah,
Not so.
forget
It's, so
that
so
job.
hold on.
Paying $4,000 a month for a 1-bedroom. Kidding me?
All right.
$3,000 at the time.
Let's say half those people are under 18.
Okay.
And half of the people who are over 18 were not born there and don't qualify. So let's just say it's 50 billion.
Okay.
$50 billion is still,
More
around
than
what?
14
Four
billion?
times their budget. So, but let's talk about the houses as well. Let's say they've got, that's going to be, what is that? That's 10,000.
What's their homeless population?
Oh, the homeless population.
So they're giving away $1
It's not, it's,
houses.
but yeah, but it's not that. I mean, somebody who's got an apartment's going to want a house too.
Sure.
So let's just do the math and say half are under 18 and of the remaining 20, half qualify. So you've got 10,000 people. And then what we'll do is 10,000 houses. And what's the average cost of a house in San Francisco? You want to Google that real quick?
Oh, good grief.
My guess? Take guesses. Mine's 1.2 million.
Yeah, look it up.
Average house.
I feel like it's higher than that.
It's gotta be higher
I
than
feel
that.
like it's maybe, I'm going to go 2.2 million.
Yeah, in San Fran, it's a very small jurisdiction.
The average house cost in San Francisco is around $350,000.
No.
Due to the
'cause-
skyrocketing real estate
And like
market.
that, I mean, I'm
can't
thinking
be right.
houses, but like
No.
apartments and stuff.
That's from Fortune.com.
That's
This
nuts.
is just house cost.
$350,000. What, for your down payment?
That's wild.
1.2 million.
Okay.
What? The Fortune.
There you go.
1.238 million San Francisco home values, down 10%.
Ian, you are spot
It
on.
is down 10%. All right.
Yeah, so I think you may be looking at San Francisco Metro, which is massive.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco in and of itself is 1.238
Yeah, it goes on
million.
1.35 million according to Redfin.
So let's add that to the number there, and that's another 12 billion.
Oh.
So we're looking
boy.
at like, I don't know, about $60 billion realistically.
Yeah,
I'm
but
excited.
It would be good to give people houses that want them, because biggest barrier to entry a lot of times to get back into society is getting a shower, not having access to clean water and a shower. If you can clean up, easy to get a job, then you can get back on your feet.
But for a dollar?
So it's like 350,000 people.
I want to help people
That's
too, but
called-
like not to bankrupt the entire city.
That's called projects, and they are usually not great places to live.
I think the Russians were doing it with farmland. They're like, if you want a homestead for a year, you can get what number would you come up with?
They said it would cost the average non-person of color in the city around $600,000. So I did the rough math. There's 44.9% white in a city of 815,000, which is like 300 and some odd thousand, 350,000 times 600,000 is 210 billion. It all adds up. $600,000 per non-person of color in San Francisco. I seriously hope they do this because these people voted for it.
Do Asian and Latino people pay the same amount?
I don't know.
I bet they introduce a scale eventually. I bet
Yeah.
they're like, no, that's or like immigrants. If you're like, I just got here, why would I have to pay this?
So I'm not a fan of race wars, and this is going in that direction.
Look. If they voted for this, then they deserve it.
They do.
If you vote
They do.
to get a new playground put in your community, you deserve it.
It's the problem with
That's a
representative
good thing,
government.
But they're
right?
not going to only charge the 600,000 to the people who voted in favor of these things, right? Like people who voted against it will also have to pay for it.
Yeah, dude, if you want to live in a city where they're telling you that you are an evil white supremacist and they're taking your money and you're like, okay, I guess, well, I'm not going to shed a tear for you.
You got to move. You got to move.
Well, check this out. Check this out. We have, I pulled up the demographics of San Francisco. 2020, it was 873,965. And then in 2021, it was 815,000, a drop of 6%. Take a look at that.
What was the 6% drop in? What was it?
6% drop in population from 2020 to 2021.
Wow.
People left.
Yeah. Smart
Who
people.
wants to be there?
That is a big drop. I mean, that's like the last 10 years of growth lost in 1 year.
Smart people should
Thanks.
migrate.
You're right. It absolutely is around 10 years of growth lost in 1 year. Wow. And where did they go? Well, Arizona, probably.
Yeah.
Well,
Texas.
some went to Florida, the more conservative-leaning ones, but a lot of them went to Arizona and turned Arizona blue.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
No, that's
Sadly.
5 decades of growth lost in 1 year.
People who don't learn their
no,
lessons.
no, Ian. That's look.
I
In
looking at
2010, it
this
was 805. In 2020, it was 873. In 2021, it was 815.
Okay.
So it's not 5 decades.
Right.
Yeah, if you go back 5 decades, you're looking at 740,000. So, the city hasn't really grown that much. You know what it is? They're zombies.
Yeah.
The left is a zombie horde. It's a zombie ideology. That's what's happening right now. And when they spread, they bring that to government. So that's why Arizona's turning blue, because people are fleeing California because they're zombies.
It's so sad.
Zombies
A lot
spread.
of my liberal friends have left California, moved to Arizona, and they are voting and behaving in the exact same ways when they lived in California.
How
Do you feel like, sorry, I was going to say, if, as a person who fled California for a red state, like, do you feel like you get a bad rap because you also left California?
Well, I have a loophole because I grew up in Texas.
Oh, okay, never
Grew
mind.
up in
I
Texas.
withdraw the question.
I moved to California when I was a teenager with my family. So when people ask me where I'm from, I'm like, Longview, Texas.
You're like, I'm going back home.
Yep. Failed experiment.
How do you fortify libertarianism against mob rule?
Guns?
So you just threaten people?
No, I mean, I'm just oversimplifying it. I mean, give me like a scenario. You mean against mob rule? I mean, a well-armed society is a polite society.
Like,
that's not hyperbolic.
There's 10,000 of us, all armed. 6,000, 5,010 of them want to redirect the waterway to their side of the city.
I mean, you got to work that out. There's not a lot of scenarios where in the modern present day era, we just straight up go to war over a river. We usually have negotiations and policies and, dealing with things like that. But the reality is we don't live in a libertarian society right now. And if we were in a libertarian society, you're going to be much less likely to have people just going and engaging in mob rule and taking over waterways.
Let's jump to this. You want one more thing in?
No, let's go.
Let's jump to this next story. I've been dying to talk about this one, and because it's a slow news day, I get to. I have this tweet from Elon Musk, no doubt, replying to me saying, Tim Pool's right. Thank you, Elon. Elon Musk responded to me saying some truth to this, so some agreement there, when I defined wokeness. And here we have this tweet of Elon Musk. I'm sorry, I'm just making fun of Luke Rudkowski because when he was on the show and Elon followed him, he started walking around the house, making sure everybody knew that Elon started following him. And he was just walking around with
his close personal friend, Elon
big
Musk.
muscles.
He was smiling and he
good.
was like, "Hey, did you guys hear?" And like, "What's happening?" He's like, "Oh, Elon followed me," and everyone's like, "Okay, Luke."
So that's what happens when you start working out.
I hope Luke's
What
listening.
happens when you have older
All right.
children?
Here's the tweet. I
kidding.
said, "Understanding what woke is simple." I like how it says is. It is the modern left liberal culture created by algorithms on social media. It is characterized by cult-like adherence to rapidly changing ideological foundations rooted in various leftist theories. It is social zombism. That's it. Everybody hyper-focuses on one element or one aspect of the modern culture of the left they disagree with, completely ignorant of the fact that those of us, and there are many others who have been doing this longer than I have, those of us who have been tracking the culture war for a long time have seen so many different forms of whatever wokeness is, you begin to realize after the first few years, there is no ideology. First, it was feminism. Then it was intersectional feminism. Then it was intersectional. It was feminism, intersectional feminism, intersectionality as a whole, which started including a bunch of other components to it. Then it became critical theory, critical race theory, critical gender theory, and ultimately wokeness. All it means, simply put, it's the modern left liberal culture that has been formed by social media algorithms. It is the political equivalent to a teenage girl crying because people won't like her Instagram photo of her butt. That's what it is. These people go on social media. Their world is politics, and they want to get as many likes as possible. End of story.
I have some questions about your definition.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me give you an example real quick so you can understand. Here's a tweet from Cenk Uygur. He says, I don't even know if, quote, equity is a real thing that anyone outside of 12 leftists and the entire right wing believe is real. The overwhelming majority of progressives agree with Bernie Sanders and me that equality of opportunity is the right standard. Well, hold on there, mister. How can Joe Biden have a national equity initiative? How can every university be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion? And then all of a sudden, Bernie Sanders and the Young Turks are like, nobody even thinks equity is a real thing. That is the perfect example of exactly what I'm saying. There is no ideology. It is whatever the thought leaders say on a whim. So when Bernie Sanders goes on Bill Maher and says, I think we want equality of opportunity, then all of a sudden they all start going, yup. I've always been for this. You could, if you got Bernie Sanders to come out and advocate for laissez-faire capitalism, they would all of a sudden be like, we've always been in favor of capitalism. We're not socialists. That is what wokeness is.
Fire away, Ian. I have a bunch of questions too.
I saw you said it is the modern left liberal culture. You have left/liberal as if it's one thing. So how do you, like, what does this left thing mean exactly? Left liberal, is that the same exact thing? Because that's a definition I want in order to understand your definition. Is it's a
left liberal is a tribal reference. That's why it's left liberal, because the political left is characterized by this group. This how
people that
we
want radical change.
No, they don't want radical change.
Progressives?
Not even progressives.
Okay.
Because if you can be a neo-lib and be woke.
Yeah.
You can be a progressive and be woke. You can be a socialist. It's just, are you adhering to the cult-like structure of this?
The current thing.
Of current thing. That's a great way to frame it. Do you adhere to current thing? Yes or no? If you do, you're woke. If you don't, you're not. That's a real simple way to put it.
So here's a question I have. I'm not disagreeing with your interpretation of wokeness, but I feel like it must have started in fairly recent history. Would you correlate it
2008.
with the rise of social media?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's factually proven. We went over this years ago with Zach Goldberg put up the LexisNexis data showing the rise of certain terminology appearing in newspapers around the rise of social media. And what ends up happening is you get these academics to hammer everything looks like a nail. And they're like, hey, these terms come from academia. Oh, man, this proves it. And then people, of course, like listening to academics. So even people who are anti-establishment will see some rogue academics and be like, the intellectual dark web. They must be very smart, know what they're talking about. But they mostly don't. I mean, they do to a certain degree, with all due respect. But I had this conversation, as I mentioned numerous times, with Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay years ago, where I said, I grew up on the internet. I watched all of these things happen. I certainly understand critical race theory's emergence, Frankfurt School, March to the Institutions and all that stuff. But what they don't understand is it could have been any ideology at all, any ideology. But the social media algorithms favored these particular phrases for money-making reasons.
I see.
That's why libertarians founded, it is said, I am told, because I had friends who worked for Mike.com, that the guys who started it were like Ron Paul libertarians. And when Mike.com was first started, it was very anti-police brutality, very pro-Ron Paul, very pro-libertarian. And then over a few years, it became totally leftist and woke because it was just chasing the algorithms. The reason the algorithms were made was not because it was a conscious effort by infiltrators at Facebook. It was because advertisers said, here are our no-no words. And that's just a runaway train. It happens to align with one ideology. It didn't come from that ideology.
So the path of Silicon Valley was really techno-libertarian to woke.
Yes. So it's really simple if you think about it. An advertiser like Coke goes to Facebook and says, you've got 5 posts, okay? One is screaming to mercilessly beat white supremacists. One is screaming to mercilessly beat communists. One is screaming to mercilessly beat white people or whatever. And they're like, no one complains when someone makes fun of white people. So we don't care about that. But that white supremacist stuff's got to go. And then everyone agrees, like, yeah, we really don't want that on the platform. Half the people agree the anti-white stuff has to go. So you start seeing this leads to an inverse rise in white nationalist ideology, because all of a sudden on social media, they're actively saying in their rules, you're allowed to insult white people. Facebook did this. I think it was Facebook, forgive me if I'm wrong, but they said that you are allowed to criticize groups if they are coming from positions of power, which resulted in a whole bunch of insane posts. And then all of a sudden they got rid of it. And then a bunch of feminists who were saying kill all men started getting banned, and they got angry about it, saying we are allowed to do this. But simply put, if a comedian makes fun of a white person, nobody cares. A comedian makes fun of a black person, people are going to have an issue with it. Advertisers only care about that. It has nothing to do with cultural Marxism. It has to do with them saying, look, we get 100 complaints when the comedian makes fun of black people. We get 0 complaints when they make fun of white people. Or we get complaints from like 7 people. Conservatives don't care. They don't boycott. They mind their own business, and everyone kind of chuckles. So we have no problem with our ads appearing on that stuff. That weight causes the shift. It is not because the ideology took over. It is because it is a hyper amplification of the fact that people don't like racist things and tolerate things that are targeting men or targeting white people, etc. This gives rise to intersectionality, which gives rise to all the other disparate ideologies. But it also explains exactly why woke people seemingly change their minds every day as to what they really believe, because they don't believe anything.
So the terms that ultimately gave us the algorithms that we have now, or in the terms of services that we have now, were directly correlated from basically who was complaining the loudest. Like if I saw something I didn't like and I identified it because, I'm female, so I think that's offensive, that sort of early intervention in the social media marketplace is what directed this?
Yes, mostly. It's basically that you take some young person, they're bored, no one knows them, no one cares about them, and they want likes. They will find a way to get those likes. One of those ways is to post nudes or something. Mm-hmm. So young girls are posting scantily clad images, getting lots of likes and followers. It sure feels good when everyone's following you. I was at VidCon 7 years ago, and I remember seeing these like little kids were talking to each other, and one kid goes, "You have 80 followers? How?" Like, that's creepy. I wonder where those kids are now. All they cared about was their follower count. Some people find it through politics. Now, because here's how I described it, like 8 years ago. The intersectional feminists are basically like white blood cells. It's an autoimmune disorder. We all agree racism is bad. It is detrimental to a functioning economy. We need to find a way to work together. The example of this is how we ultimately got the civil rights movement. And the story, as I'm told, is Lyndon Johnson, I think it was Johnson, had staff members who were black, and he needed his dog taken home. And they were like, we can't. And he's like, why not? And they're like, because we can't use any facilities anywhere. And we have a dog with us. We won't be able to do anything. And he was like, what do you mean? Like, because of segregation, we can't even stop for gas or go to the bathroom. And he was like, okay, that's a problem because I got to get stuff done and I need your help. So the nature of the economy leads to people being like, oh, this doesn't work. So naturally, we all say these things are bad. So when it comes to social media, people are trying to find ways to get clicks and get likes. Well, everyone agrees on this one thing. So then you get young people saying, if I say this thing, I'll get clicks. Police brutality videos go viral, but you add a component of racism and it goes quadruple viral. So people start spamming this stuff to make money and generate traffic, and it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy, creating young people built on this ideology who are inundated with this crackpot algorithmic garbage. And that's why their ideas make no sense, are not coherent, and it's a cult. All they want to do is say what they need to say to fit in. That's why Cenk Uygur comes out and goes, Bernie Sanders is right. Equality of opportunity the whole time. It's like, my guy, you were just out talking about equity like a year ago. What happened? No, Bernie Sanders said so. And he's got more status than he does. So you got to adhere to whatever the status quo is.
I felt like before social media, it existed still, but you didn't see it. They were like, I remember 9/11 and everybody was on board to go get Saddam and his weapons of mass destruction. Like, the message of the day was Saddam Hussein bad. Everyone just put that Ukraine flag in their bio and went with it. And like, but no one knew how crazy it was at the time because we didn't have social media to see ourselves in action. Mm-hmm. And now you can obviously see people falling into this narrative, whether, I guess, far left narrative you would call it. It's just this radical.
So let me
find. It like gave us an individual way to track the data, right? Like, I saw that you posted in favor of this issue and you got a lot of likes. So that makes me question whether or not I should challenge you on it because it seems like all of our mutual friends support you.
And it also explains their tactics. The reason why they try shaming you and doing these brigade campaigns, because they're trying to use negative social pressure to make you do what they want or give them something you have, because they're looking for the same thing.
But there does seem to be some sort of Marxist or left cultural element that is complementary to it, because that's what social media is picking up on.
And in
It's what
3 years, it won't be.
rewards.
In 3 years, it'll be something different.
Well, that would be amazing and refreshing.
Well, I mean, look at what Cenk Uygur is saying literally right now.
Yeah.
Equality of opportunity, that's classically liberal.
He's definitely become a little bit of an outlier and like difficult to.
Now, I know this is exactly what wokeness is. The fact that Bernie Sanders didn't know what equity was, this is the perfect example. Bernie Sanders on Bill Maher, he gets asked about what it is, he doesn't know, and then says, I think, I don't know, we want equality of opportunity. Because he didn't know what he was talking about.
Right.
Then all of a sudden they go, I agree, I've always agreed with that. It's like, bro, that's not Marxism. That's classical liberalism. That's what we've been arguing for.
Well, I want to see that happen. I mean, if that's what's coming down, floating down the river of wokeness, that would be fantastic.
It will not change the fact that these people are violent cultists.
Well,
So what will end up happening is they'll say, do you agree with me or not? In this instance, you'll be like, well, I do like equality of opportunity. And then they'll slowly lower their crowbar and say, okay, you're like me. And then they'll go and attack someone else. They're zombies. It's social zombism. They go from person to person. They infect you with their ideology, which is, there's not even an ideology. They infect you with, do what we say or it will be painful for you. Then the person says, I'm just going to do whatever I'm told, otherwise it'll be painful for me. And they continue to spread.
they're
That's
the
why.
fast zombies.
That's why they go from California to Arizona and everything keeps happening. They flee because of how bad it is, but keep bringing it with them. It's zombism.
So is there a chance that what wokeness is will ever be something positive? Will it ever be positive if it's just cultural trends?
No.
The current thing.
Racism is bad, right?
Yep.
Fighting against racism is a good thing.
Yep.
These people are operating under that premise, and it is nightmarish.
So they're always going to be fighting against something.
They have to hate something.
Yep.
They have to be against something. And conversely, many on the right are exactly this, and that's why people can't define what woke is.
It's a culture of hate is what it sounds like.
Everybody tries to define woke in some way, and I'm surprised. I see so many people doing these long-winded paragraphs about postmodernism and intersectionality and all these things, and I'm like, these are probably people who only recently started following this stuff. Because I've been tracking this stuff for a while now, and there are many people who've been following it longer than I have. But I'm like, 7 years ago, I mean, what was it, 7 years ago when I did that video for Sargon of Akkad on his channel? Mm-hmm. What we defined as woke was dramatically different. Very, very different. It was not what it is today. I mean, you look at the rapid transformation of, saying like kids shouldn't get sex changes, which then becomes kids aren't getting sex changes, which then becomes they get it, but it's rare. Why are you mad? To it's happening. It's a good thing. It's not that the ideology is like they're trying to take over. It's that there isn't one. It just changes.
Yeah, I sense a dialectic. In woke, it's like a false adherence to a dialectic. Whatever, that's a simple way to explain. There's always this and that in the idea of like the other. There's this, like it was Saddam Hussein in 2003, and now it's Vladimir Putin, or it's white people, or it's the rich people, or whatever. But like, if you're going to fall into this us and them mindset, you're basically falling into a woke pattern.
We got a super chat from Katia says, Tim, it's simple. The left appeal to authority, the right individually. That's what's woke. Don't overthink it. That's a good way to put it too. The left is basically, are you in with current thing or not? Yeah. And the right is kind of like, I think for myself. What's really splitting everybody is the internet has allowed for the zombies to coalesce and for the individualists to expand their knowledge base and have a voice to themselves.
People that can hold multiple truths at once, like think, oh, Vladimir Putin's a bad guy and Zelensky's a bad guy. It's okay to think that. You don't have to pick a side here, or they're both good guys. You don't have to pick a side. Like
here, actually, Ukraine's a really good point. Under what Marxist theory is the war in Ukraine written about or supported? There isn't. It's just simply put. Nothing in these leftist ideologies has anything to do with Ukraine. Yet for some reason, these people are all pro-Ukraine war.
They are, very much.
Has nothing to do with leftism. In fact, you could argue that true leftist ideology opposes war. The idea of collectivism wouldn't exist with interventionism, or interventionalism, whatever you want to call it. This is good evidence that these people don't actually adhere to any kind of ideology. They just do what the machine says to do.
Current thing.
Current thing. Current thing is pro-Ukraine, so we're pro-Ukraine no matter what it means. This is how you end up with Hassan Piker criticizing the military-industrial complex and supporting the war in Ukraine at the same time.
So bizarre.
Because there's no ideology there. It's just, look, they're looking at the system like logic doesn't matter. What matters is all that you agree. So if the left used to be about the military-industrial complex is bad and that artifact remains, but today you have to be pro-Ukraine, they will say both things are true at the same time, despite the fact that they can't be.
Mm-hmm. Does the relationship wokeness have with social media and the internet mean that someone could use it to steer wokeness in a certain direction? Like if you got something trending, you could decide what wokeness is going to support.
Yep, absolutely. I remember I was at a protest for Trayvon Martin in New York, and they were going to march to One Police Plaza. Occupy Wall Street activists showed up, went to the front of the march, and then started fanning people in a different direction and brought them to Wall Street instead. And then once this huge crowd of people were at Wall Street, these people being dumb as a box of rocks who were just doing whatever they were told started protesting Wall Street. It was hilarious to watch. They were climbing on the bull and they were like, woo, we're the 99%. And then one of the organizers for the Trayvon protest was like, what happened? Well, you didn't realize these people didn't show up because they cared about anything. They showed up because people told them that's what you're supposed to do. These people don't have lights on upstairs. They're just going, I don't know, just tell me where to stand. And the Occupy Wall Street activists knew this. I used to tell people this. It's really funny. When you'd be at a march in New York City, and this is knowledge for anybody who lives in New York or was ever near a large leftist march. I'm a journalist and I'm filming with my camera and I have no interest in organizing this march. The funny thing is, the march is going forward, and on numerous occasions, the journalists in front will turn to the left to get a wide shot from an angle, and the crowd would follow them and make the wrong turn down a side street. Because all of these people thought was, those people are turning, I follow them. The person behind them says, I follow him, I follow him, I follow him. And they all just march in the wrong way. And the organizers would be like, wait, stop, turn around. And then halfway down the block, everyone would stop and get all confused and then start turning around and then go the other direction. It was hilarious.
Left foot, right foot.
It's part of why I hated religion in my early life is this faith, blind adherence to faith. Like willing to believe that whatever we're doing is for a greater good that I don't even understand, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to follow that guy. Like that, to me, is religion. I never liked it. I understand now that you can believe in things that you can't prove. That's not necessarily evil.
It's critical thinking. That element needs to be there.
It's yeah. Because people will take that faith and use it for their own advantage.
Yeah, I would think the religions that are exactly what you're talking about are the ones that say don't use your critical thinking, don't question us at all. Like if you were questioned, theoretically, if you're a religious leader, you can work with someone and have a discussion and your values still surface at the top of the conversation. I think not true.
Stronger.
I think about it this way. Imagine there's a group of people in the middle of a street. And then all of a sudden there's a bang. And every single one of these people starts running north. What do you do?
Oh.
Take cover.
Get out of the way.
Run west.
Yeah, get out of the way. Yeah.
Why run with the crowd?
No, just get out of the
What you're supposed to do is is assess the situation as quickly as possible. So I tell this story about when I was in Venezuela. You had the National Guard here. A few blocks up, you had the protesters. There was a bang, and the protesters all started running north. And then I ran west.
Yeah.
I do not want to be in between these two groups.
No.
Why would I run with them? But a lot of people are really dumb, so they just run in the direction the other people are running.
And you see that in the movies?
You could be running into the fire.
It'll show like in the movie, a guy's in like Africa running through the savannah and like he's getting chased, but he just keeps running. Straight in a straight line and the car's gaining on him or whatever it is right behind him. Dude, run to the left. Like do something unique.
You ever see?
Don't follow along.
Well,
you ever see Prometheus?
No, just clips.
The giant ship is like a donut. It starts rolling, and the woman runs straight. She's like, and I'm like, run to your right. What are you doing? Get out from under it.
That's bad. Yeah, that's
This is what people do.
In your example, these people are thinking, I heard a bang, so I have to get away from that. They're not thinking about the other things that are threatening them. They're not thinking about the dangers of being.
They're not thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's wokeness.
That's crazy.
Is wokeness a religion?
It is a non-theistic religion.
Okay.
So it is characterized by a lot of tenets of I should say behaviors that are associated with religion, but there's no core structure or ideology, so it's completely hollow.
Okay.
On the outside, if you were to take woke people and a religious group, you would be like, hey, they have very similar tendencies. But then you would find that wokeness has no morals. They don't believe in morals. They have no core ideology. They say random things, and they're dangerous. They're violently adherent to their nothing. All it is connection to each other. If the group says so, you do it. In fact, I'm not talking about religious groups in the sense that they act like woke people, like Antifa. I'm saying in the sense that there is a collective structure and a community. But true religious people are not mindless zombies. Mindless zombies can't have religion. But anybody who's watched this show has seen numerous people who are devout and have faith who are not zombies.
Sure.
They think about why they believe this stuff. They have a reason they believe it. So I think it's possible that, this zombie-like mentality has existed in many different groups. Sometimes it possesses a religion. Right now it's possessing a political faction.
Interesting. And it's existed probably throughout history, but with the rise of social media, it's not been as obvious or prevalent.
And theoretically, if you control social media right now, you can control the direction of whatever.
To a
artificial
degree,
intelligence.
right? Because we've talked a little bit about the element of some sort of negative feedback loop here.
Yeah.
That we can't make it positive.
Yeah, I don't think there's any kind of positive outcome from a mindless zombie cult.
Fair enough.
Zombies can work together in the sense that they all run in the same direction and will attack and destroy. But that's the only thing they do. So if your goal is to wipe out a city, unleashing a horde of zombies is a really great way to do it.
San Francisco.
Or, if you're China, for instance, and you want to promote TikTok, which then zombifies young people and creates more people that are mindless zombies.
Yeah, I haven't seen any creative value. Like, I see the destructive value of hordes of mindless people, or just not even call them mindless, but people that are obsessed with like being victims, like victim mentality, that kind of thing. I haven't seen anything creative really come out of it. I've seen movies made about it that aren't very good.
I would say I have seen some creative things, but it's bad. It's bad art. It's bad stand-up, bad comedy, bad movies, it's awful.
I think the mindset that I'm a victim is just leads to destruction. It only can, if you think you're suffering and you're going to lose, or that you're losing, you're going to lose. You need to have a positive winning attitude to win and
There's
survive.
not even any nobility in it. Sometimes you see like a noble martyr. I don't see any of that. It's just whiny, terrible culture.
It's just a mob. It's a pitchfork mob.
It
And here we are
sucks.
whining and complaining about it. What? It's infective. God, that's the problem.
Yeah,
with it.
but you must understand, a controlled burn can stop a wildfire.
Yeah, we're having
That's
intelligent conversation about it.
We're picking it apart.
This is why leftists don't go on shows. Sometimes you'll get liberals and left-like individuals. They will do it sometimes, but overwhelmingly they don't, because their only goal is to fit in with the cult. You can't do that by going on someone's show that is not in the cult. All that does is damage your cult status.
There's going to be an interesting debate coming up with Clint Russell and a leftist. I'm excited about that. I think.
He announced it on the show.
Who's the
Yeah.
leftist?
I think it was Vosh.
Was it Vosh?
No, it's Destiny.
Oh, it is Destiny. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Destiny's not a leftist. He's a liberal.
He's about as centrist as you get. I
Yeah.
love that guy, man. He's observant. And what's up, Steve?
He defended Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, he just kind of calls what he
That's nice.
sees. I like him.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, he's a liberal. He's been on the show. We disagree on policy, but even like before the show, it's like we agree on a whole lot, because he may have different political views. He leans more authoritarian than most of us.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd call him an authoritarian. Maybe, because he said one of the things that really stood out was when he said a crisis is the perfect time to force change in a society, and I'm like, okay, that's very authoritarian.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, my attitude is like, you shouldn't manipulate people in their time of need. But he was like, when else would you do it? And I'm like,
Yeah.
not in a crisis when you ask them to vote.
I would not.
But it's good that you have this perspective,
I would
right?
not
Like now
do
you
it.
see how the other side thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and acknowledging that that's a good time to do it doesn't mean that he's instructing people to do it. He's just saying this is when it is
This
the best
is when
time,
someone
so watch out
would
for
see
it.
an ideal time to do it. And therefore, anytime we go into crisis, you can now assume that there are people who are saying, I will now introduce change.
There's
at
a
this
big
time.
difference between having it as an observation and like advice
And carrying
or
it out,
command.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get from Steven, Destiny, is that he's observant of a lot of problems, but he doesn't seem to propel them. He's pretty astute about.
Let's put him in charge of the woke mob then.
So when are he and Clint going to debate?
I don't recall what they're going to debate, but it's going to be on the Take Human Action tour.
Do you know the date? Is this in Austin?
No, this
Or is
one's
this
in. This one's in. I think Tennessee.
Okay, Clint Russell.
Clint Russell. I could be wrong. It's Tennessee or New York.
Let's talk about the end of wokeness. How about that? We got this story from Timcast.com. Disney's ultra woke Willow series canceled after one season.
Oh no.
So it's not just this one show, but I'll use this article as a launching point. Netflix is getting rid of a lot of these shows. They canceled their non-binary ox story or whatever. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No.
Yeah, it's like a preschool show where an ox is like, I'm non-binary and I don't like she, her, so I'm they, them. And they're like, okay. And then Netflix was like, get rid of this.
That is the worst. A non-binary ox for children.
So they're starting to get rid of all this stuff, and Netflix is seeing their subscriptions grow again.
Nice.
So they dipped really hard. I think this is evidence that it was the boycott campaign from conservatives that really hurt their bottom line and caused them to shift and go back. And I also want to give a shout out to a show called The Order. One of the only shows I've ever seen where the villain's a communist.
Interesting.
Season 2, you should watch it. They canceled it.
The fact that we're all like, wow, what a great concept.
On Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's called The Order. And they did 2 seasons and then canceled it. But the second season, the bad guy's a communist. He's a communist university professor.
I'll check it out. That is fascinating.
Like a communist university professor is a bad guy. I was like, this is great. I love this show. I like politics in my
they
TV.
made it that like they even made that. Like it sounds like something to be like, no, it's too crazy.
I think conservatives started boycotting over cuties.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the thing.
I think what's happened as we just did this long discussion on what wokeness is, these companies are starting to realize that ESG and wokeness hurt your bottom line.
Good. Because that's the only reason they were adopting it, I think, in the first place.
They thought it helped.
Yes.
They were like, this is what people like. And then sure enough, if you implement a diversity program at your company because you want to fit in, and then a year later, let's say this. Let's say you hired a diversity, equity, and inclusion, a chief equity officer or whatever, and now Bernie Sanders just went out on Bill Maher and said, we don't want any of that. Now what did you fire the guy? Uh-oh, we did this thing because on a whim, leftists said they liked it. Now they don't like it anymore. We don't fit in anymore. Oh, gotta get rid of it.
Man,
I mean, but think about this. Bernie Sanders says, no, we don't want equity. Cenk Uygur then comes out and says, I agree, we don't. So if you're a company that has it, you're out of line. You no longer fit in. The left is going to throw a brick through your window because you're opposing Bernie Sanders now.
It's too bad these people don't have self-reflection because they're zombies with no shame.
Well, zombies can't reflect on anything. They just groan, you know.
But they do have reflections.
Yes.
Vampires don't, though. They
Right.
can't.
Loving
There's
the
no
plan
way a
work.
vampire can see its own can ever reflect on itself.
But vampires can think. Like vampires,
critically.
Vampires are more like CEOs of big companies, big neoliberal crony corporate institutions.
Yeah.
They just extract value. They're conscious of what they're doing and they don't care.
Except apparently Vanguard. So Vanguard's pulled out of this ESG stuff. Have you been following?
I was not aware that Vanguard had pulled out of ESG. That's really interesting.
It's like a 20. How big is this fund? It's about
Huge.
9 times smaller than BlackRock. Vanguard is 9 times. It's based out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
This is an American company. And the CEO basically just stepped up and was like, it's not profitable. We're done. We're taking back. We're aiming at profit first for our investors. We're not going to screw you guys over by putting your money into things that don't return money.
Yeah.
Basic. But that's how economics works. That's why I think free market, a lot of times, the problem with free market is it's not free. It's co-opted by people at the top. It's like
I know.
socialism for the few.
We got to have more economic literacy campaigns so that people can start to understand it. It's going to be a long, long haul, but we got to start at the beginning and just start educating people.
Have you talked to Vivek Ramaswamy?
I have not spoken to him.
Wow. Now that would be a unification for him to come, because he is like the economic guru. That guy, to be able, if he can interlock with the Libertarian Party, he's running as a Republican right now for president.
He was just in New Hampshire. I think some of the New Hampshire libertarians were interested in his campaign. We'll see what happens. I'm all about Austrian economics and economic literacy. That's why I'm like so into Mises and that whole, path.
And when you argue with someone who calls for a command economy or for the nationalization of banks, you know that they've not read anything.
Correct.
And they don't know how finance works at all. It's funny when people talk about like our tax dollars paying for this, that, or otherwise, and it's just like, that's not how it works. They just manufacture money. It's all
like
meaningless.
a meme. It goes burr.
Yeah, the modern monetary system is nonsensical. It's just like when they want money, it's just there, they have it.
You just ask mom and dad.
Yeah.
If that, the banks just create money upon demand for a loan.
Exactly.
The money supply just keeps growing infinitely. And I heard these people I was listening to a space on Twitter and they were like finance guys and they're talking about fractional reserve policy. And I'm like,
The Fed is.
we covered this in 2021 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like when Ian brought it up, when they dropped the reserve requirements and now it's an infinite reserve system where they can just loan out an infinite amount of money with no restrictions.
Exactly. They make it seem as if the Fed's doing it, but it's not. it's just banks.
I mean, the
They're
Fed does
just
it too. Quantitative easing is a thing.
Yes,
they want to
but-
inject debt-free money into the system. Well, it's not debt-free, but they want to inject money into the system through the government, things like that. But it used to be a 9-to-1 for every, or like 90% for every $100 they could loan out 90. And then I think Ian pointed out they updated in March of 2020. They were going on to an infinite reserve system where banks could
Right.
infinitely loan out money without any
That's
reserve
what I'm saying.
requirements.
Here's like the lion's share is there.
There's a quote from the Fed chair of the Minneapolis Fed chair, Neil Kashkari, from put it memorably on 60 Minutes in March 2020. Quote, "There's an infinite amount of cash in the Federal Reserve. We will do whatever we need to make sure there's enough cash in the banking system."
Infinity dollars.
So I think that's a good message to me. I'm not giving advice to anybody to buy Bitcoin and maybe some gold.
I mean,
and
that's
water.
a moronic statement to say that there is infinite and that we will do what we need to make enough. You can't have enough in an infinite system.
It's like children just making things up.
Wow.
Except these are the people in charge of our finance.
Yeah, it's like literally everything against what I learned to get a degree in econ. It's like it's totally. We're just, I don't even know what to say.
When you were studying for your degree, did they talk about how corrupt stuff was?
Well, I was told that stagflation will never happen. It'll never happen. Like, this will never be a thing. Don't worry about it. Don't consider it. It'll never happen.
Hey,
And
look at that
here
white
we are.
shot.
Here we are. Yeah.
Stagflation. Can you define that really quick?
Stagnating inflation. Where of inflation, but we don't have the ability to create any more wealth out of the situation. So you're basically just stuck in the situation. It's like this. They're like, oh, but it'll never happen. I was told so many times it'll never happen, but here.
So like where you want to buy steel from a different country, but your money is worth so little that you can't even afford the steel to buy the factory.
Yeah,
That would be an
essentially.
instance of
I'll just give you the dictionary definition. It's persistent high inflation combined with high unemployment and stagnant demand in a country's economy.
Right.
Oh,
so
COVID did
costs
that.
are going up and everything else is just frozen.
Yeah.
So it's like it's really bad.
You can't do anything. You're stuck. There's nothing you can do. You can't affect any change in the situation.
You got to find a
Stagflation,
really
here it is.
cheap way to start a new industry. I like this pulling carbon dioxide out of the air concept for that. It's almost near infinite resource, airborne carbon.
And
Not
so are
infinite,
trees,
but there's a
though.
lot of it. More trees. Just
burn trees.
Burn trees, plant more trees, burn more trees, and more carbon. That could get us like from 0 to 100 to get things started if we need to kickstart our economy. But it's not going to happen with the old style.
What?
Just somebody in the chat saying this guy named Blake saying that they were told that too, that stagflation would never happen. And that was like a thing that I was told
Yeah.
it would never ever happen. It's never going to be a thing. Don't
What?
worry about it. Don't even think about how to solve it. Don't think about it. It's never going to be an issue. Then modern monetary policy comes in, and now it's like it's just
MMT is like the witchcraft of economics. You
Yeah,
should
it's
not.
crazy.
You should not dabble.
no one
in
knows what's
economic
going to happen.
Stay
witchcraft.
away.
No one knows what's going to happen. No one has any real understanding of what's going to happen because it's an experiment. We're basically in an experiment right now. We don't really. It's theoretically this is how it should work.
Yeah.
It's theoretically it's going to be okay, but we don't know.
Modern monetary theory is the idea that if your country controls the outflow of money, if you control the currency, you can make as much as you want, that you can print as much as you want, and there's going to be no drawback because you control it. So you can always make more and nothing can ever stop it or make it go bad. That's the stupid theory. That's an actual theory that you can print unlimited amounts of money if you control it.
Yep.
That's so wrong because that's a sort of inflation. If you keep printing money.
It's centralizing the economy. It means that you can then, if everybody in this table had $1 and was trading that dollar for goods, like Ian, I'll give you $1 for that water, and then I have the water, and then Angela's like, I'll give you $1 for that water, and we're trading this water, the money's all moving, it's an economy. Serge then writes on a piece of paper $1 and then walks up and goes, I will give you $1 for this water, and you go, I like this, and he takes your water and leaves. Now we're all sitting here holding dollars with no water, and we're like, wait, what just happened?
And we're
He provided nothing. He did no work for the community. He gave no real trade. This is what the U.S. government has been doing. I shouldn't say so much the government, but the Fed. What basically happens is we all work for each other. You know what it is? Holy crap. The best way to understand this is the Google box from Rick and Morty. All right?
I don't know what that is.
So Rick's car breaks down, and then he has a battery with the miniverse in it, or a microverse, whatever he calls it.
Sure.
A miniature universe where a civilization of people generate energy by stepping on these pads.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then he takes a portion of the energy to power his car, and they don't realize. And then
They're
Morty's like,
extracting the value. Basically.
yes. And Morty goes, isn't this just slavery with extra steps? And he goes, no, they work for each other. They trade. That's what the Federal Reserve is. Yeah. We all work for each other. We all do trade. And then as we're trading these dollars, The dollars have value because we believe in each other. Because I know that Ian wants dollars. Ian is willing to do work for dollars so the economy functions. I say, Ian, here's $1. Come on this show and talk about magnetism. And he says, that's a good idea for me. The U.S. government does no work and then just manufactures the dollar.
Right.
And then walks in, injects it into the system to take from Ian. Ian is then convinced to do work on behalf of the government who did no work in return. Because they control the flow of money.
Right. There was no
That's the
value
Fed.
created.
And when there's
value.
five
Value
of
just
us,
extracted from the
Right.
system.
Value goes to them. There's no value created for the system at all. It's just,
when there's four of us each trading $1, and then Serge comes in with his piece of paper dollar and hands it in, now we've got four of us. That dollar, I guess, is lost. Or we have to be like, no.
Now there's $5 and no water.
And one of the dollars is worth 0. So now each of our dollars is worth 80 cents. We have to divide it up to balance it out.
Remember that $1 is a store of value. The idea is that it holds value. Value is, it's why you don't bring like 100 goats to a market to trade for like, 1,000, whatever. You just bring
It's a medium of exchange.
Yeah, it's a medium of exchange. Exactly. You don't need, it doesn't, it's like, it just represents value. So what Tim is saying is the value has been extracted.
Well, I'll put it this way.
Promissory note.
So Ian, you have $1. We all have $1, and you have the water, and we're all trading. When Serge comes to you and says, "I'll give you $1 for your water," you now have $2. Then when Hannah Claire comes to you and says, "I'll give you $1 for water," you go, "I already have $2. I don't need it. I don't need your $1. I got $1 from him." Well, now Hannah Claire can't buy from you because you're uninterested in working for you because you already got too much money. So then she has to pay more. It was, well, how much do I have to give you to do the work? And you go, well, I already got $2, so I don't know. 2 more. But it was $1 yesterday. Well, I already have $1. I don't need yours. Right. It's like, okay, well, I'll give you $2. Well, $2 is worth it. That's inflation.
Yeah. That's
partly what inflation is.
It's like how the stagflation starts. Basically, that's how it begins.
Well, the stagflation is a component of them stripping resources from the system,
So
destroying
no
businesses.
Longer, there's nothing.
Now there's no
value
demand, and the cost of goods is skyrocketing because they're dumping money. Right. Basically, what they did was they flood the zone with money and then stop anyone from producing. It was like, anyone who's ever read Econ 101 would be like, that'll cause stagflation. Right. So the prices are skyrocketing and the stores are empty.
Except for all of Serge's professors who were like, that's not a real thing. No one talk about this.
When they said it would never happen, did they tell you why it would never happen?
Because no one thought that anyone would be crazy enough to say, like, yeah, we can just print money. We can just let the banks make money. It's like money is the thing. We can just, they're creating money because they're just giving it out.
I'm pretty sure AOC's policy position on universal health care is deficit spending.
There's more than one monetary theory at this point, all around just the creation of money and printing and being perpetually in debt.
I'm pretty sure AOC's idea was, when you need health care, the government will print the money and pay your bill.
Yes.
Every time. And it's like, well, that's the fastest way to destroy an economy.
Yeah, increase the deficit. Yeah, I remember reading that she has a degree in economics from some school.
You know what would happen?
About that.
From some schools.
The hospitals, if they were told the government will guarantee all costs no matter what, they'll be like, oh, really?
Yeah.
This guy broke his hand.
Yeah.
Breaking a hand costs $10 million to fix.
Right.
Sorry.
It's very tragic.
Alexandra Cortez has an economics degree from Boston University.
Yeah.
So no one go to school at Boston University for economics.
Unless you want to get into Congress.
Go to the Mises Institute instead. Go to the Mises Institute.
Where's the Mises?
Or just Google
Auburn.
Like
Google.
you do better off just Googling
Yeah.
it.
I wouldn't even go to school.
Go
for
to the
economics.
Take Human Action tour and actually
Bing
learn
it.
from an Austrian economist.
Speaking of, Clint Russell and Destiny will be debating in Nashville. The
There you go.
Action
Nashville,
tour in Nashville.
and you'll be in Oakland.
I will be in Oakland. I believe that's in May.
It's pretty freaking cool.
We're having Destiny on the show soon, too, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pumped.
He agreed to come on the show earlier, but I can't remember what
He was watching a clip of one of our shows, and he was like, I wish I was there. he was talking about it, like interjecting ideas.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. He's always welcome. He's a smart dude. Yeah, Kyle Kalinske would be great as well. I'm really excited to get him on the show at some point. And Crystal Ball.
Big time.
Yeah.
Love those guys.
Good people. See, that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't call Kyle Kalinske woke.
Okay.
Like, I think, I don't know.
He's partisan. I mean, wears it on his sleeve, but he's not woke. He seems like observant to reality.
He thinks different, and that's fine. But like, if the woke people call me conservative, they probably call you far right too.
Oh, the evil Nazi, racist, misogynist, woman hater woman.
Kyle, I don't mean you're like super partisan. If I had to levy some sort of thing, like I've seen.
I think you can be partisan and not woke.
Yeah,
I think you absolutely can. You know who was fantastic recently that I had the pleasure of meeting was Dennis Kucinich.
Oh, how was it?
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Wonderful person, like one of the coolest guys ever. Former Democrat, definitely not woke.
Former. What's he now?
Maybe I'm speaking out of turn. Maybe he is still a Democrat, but I mean, he's not in office right now.
He was such a breath of fresh air in the 2008 election. He kept Obama honest in the running. He and Ron Paul both were like...
He spoke at our anti-war rally, and he was just a delightful human.
He's still a Democrat. He's just not in office.
Yeah.
So,
definitely,
but not being pedantic.
Definitely not woke and not one of these weird current things pro-war Democrats.
We're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com, click that join us button, become a member because we need your support. In this world, there are many evil cultural forces and woke zombies that seek to destroy and tear everything down around us. If you think we do a good job, if you want us to do more and you want to see more projects, you like the projects we've announced, such as the grant program we're talking about running, I think Benny Johnson might end up being involved. A lot of work has to be done. Then become a member to support us because it's now or never. For those of you that can, you should probably just stand up for yourself, fight the good fight, speak out where you can speak out. For those of you that can't, becoming a member is one way. It's not, I got to be honest, I'd rather see you guys speak up for yourself and take charge. But if there's something holding you back, then I would be grateful if you became a member and put us in your charge to help fight this fight. We got a lot of really cool stuff going on, so I really do appreciate it. But we're going to have that members only show coming up at about 10 p.m. For now, we will read your super chats, so smash that like button. All right, I'm not your buddy guy says, if our forefathers were here today, they would say our planet has been taken over by evil, chaotic, and destructive demons, and I'd be unable to disagree.
Man, Thomas Jefferson warned us about the central banks. He said they were more dangerous than standing armies, and he wasn't wrong.
Mm-hmm. He was correct. 100% correct, unfortunately. All right, let's see. Where are we at? Goldilocks Production says, they that can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Benjamin Franklin, Historical Review of Pennsylvania, 1759. Indeed, indeed. Yep. T-Rex Pet Shop says, I don't think anything else could surprise me with Joe Biden. Maybe that's the problem. Tim, who do I contact in charge of purchasing for all the pets? Oh, I guess Ian.
Oh, yeah. Purchasing all the pets?
Purchasing all the pets.
What?
I think they
purchasing food for the pets.
Yeah, food. They I noticed you messaged me the other day, by the way. T-Rex Pet Shop. You messaged me. Sorry about that. I didn't know how to respond. Pardon me. I don't know. I'm not sure who does that. So
this is the first I've heard of it. So T-Rex Pet Shop is going to send pet food? Is that the plan?
They have various pet foods.
Yeah,
We've talked about it before.
Yeah, hit me and Serge up. One of us will get you through to the right place.
Well, yeah. No, hit Ian up.
Hit me up on Twitter. I think that's the best way right now.
All right.
T-Rex.
Hillbilly Clinton says, yo, Ian, is that blazer suede or is my TV just jacked up?
Nah, this corduroy. Thanks for asking. I got some suede ones downstairs. I'll wear one next time.
Shannon says, Tim, your video about the definition of woke was brilliant, and I feel like I'm armed now if I have to explain it to someone. Thank you. I think I made the video after the tweet or before. I can't remember, actually. But I'm seeing all these people tweet these long-winded, like, academic papers on the definition of wokeness, and I'm like, that doesn't explain it. To the average person, when they say woke, they are not saying, like when someone goes, this guy's woke as hell. They're not saying, this guy came to me and started preaching weird Marxist economic theories and racial theories that were rooted in postmodernism and the destruction of the system and the family. No. They're complaining about a cult member who came up and said nonsense. That's what they're complaining about. Mm-hmm. They're complaining about someone who is garbling word diarrhea.
It's mainstream, too. It's not deeply esoteric.
The key is to hone the definition down to like 6 words or less.
Yes, no paragraphs.
So that old people that don't have a good vocabulary can understand it or little kids can understand it.
Then I will combine the 2 sentences that I wrote, if that was too verbose, and say, wokeness is the modern left liberal culture that has a cult-like adherence to rapidly changing leftist theories.
I think that works.
Put that on a
two
t-shirt.
sentences
Here we
is
go.
fine.
Too much leftist. Too many. You use the word twice. Have to only use it once.
No, there's no other way to say it.
We'll have to storyboard this.
So if you're talking to an old person, like, what does woke mean? I would say, so you know how there's a left and the right in this country? Right. There's like conservatives and liberals, or that's what they say. Okay, so the liberals today mostly are what we define as woke. And woke represents a cult-like adherence to a rapidly changing set of ideologies. For the most part, woke basically just means cult member. That's it. Woke is the name of the cult. People who are woke are members of that cult. There's no real core structure to it. That's how I would explain it to an old person. Hence, you'll see someone advocating for removing a child's genitals. And they'll go, what? That's not true. And I'll be like, here is a book where they are advocating for removing the genitals of children. And they'll go, wow, that sounds like a cult. Like, yeah, it certainly does, doesn't it?
In a year, they'll say, don't do it, it's bad. And they'll be like, yeah, it's bad. Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, like I'll put it this way. If you met somebody who came to you and said you were an evil, like if you saw a white person walk up to a black person and start screaming to the black person who was a white supremacist because the black person opposes cutting off the testicles of children, you'd probably think the white person was a cult member or a psychopath. That's woke. That's what we're talking about. It's that simple. And now, just because the worst elements of it are like removing a child's testicles or breasts, doesn't mean that all woke people are that extreme. It could also be someone walking up to you and saying, call me they, them. And you're like, ah, yes, the tenets of wokeness, whose leaders want to mutilate children's genitals.
Yes.
So there are death cults and there are sex cults. Sex cultists don't walk up to you and try and kidnap you to torture you. They try and come up to you and be nice. There are certain large and prominent pseudo-religions that I won't name specifically for legal reasons. They don't come to you and, let me say this, in a totally unrelated story, Scientologists don't walk up to people and then say, here's the book on Scientology. They come to you with Dianetics.
They ask you if you want to take a test.
Yes. They say, do you want to take a test and ask you questions?
Find
then
out
they say,
which
buy this
test.
book called Dianetics. If you then go through these steps, eventually you'll find yourself more so in Scientology. That's what wokeness is. So when you see someone who's being very nice and very polite and they're acting totally normal and then they say, but call me they, them, you're like, dude, I don't want to be involved in your cult. Have you guys seen the video where they're all in the park with their hands up?
Yep.
And they're like, I will be kind to my black brothers and that's a cult. That's what a cult is. Anyway, let's read more. All right. Dime Kang 86 says, apparently there's a photo on Twitter from Hunter's laptop that shows Joe Biden with a young woman. Facebook said it violates their child porn policy. What?
Okay.
I mean, I know that there are images on the Hunter Biden laptop that would be banned from Facebook for that reason. Yes.
Biden fatigue syndrome. Not surprised.
And no one does anything about it.
Yeah, they're not.
The system's collapsed. Everybody knows the emperor has no clothes. Yep. And he is well guarded by cult members in law enforcement.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like Civil War. Like, it's not a civil war, it's a zombie apocalypse. Okay? Look, there are zombies occupying the seat of government. That's it.
Can we have a peaceful secession from zombie apocalypse?
The first Civil War was a peaceful secession. The Confederates declared their secession. The North said no and sent troops in to South Carolina. So
Yep.
when you say we want a peaceful divorce or a national divorce, it is impossible because they will not allow that.
I'm going to try to negotiate a little better.
Have you tried walking up to a masked Antifa throwing bricks and firebombs and asking them if they would kindly stop?
I have a different theory that I couldn't state on live air, but I do feel like there's a peaceful way out of it.
You might be able to negotiate economic divorce.
Yep, I think we can negotiate economic divorce. I think we've got to have more leverage.
But
do.
you genuinely think there's a capability to walk up to Antifa and talk them down from burning a building down?
No, well, not. I mean,
Well, then how would you negotiate against these people?
the dentist, has this thing called, gas that they share sometimes. Sometimes you got to, roofie them and slip away, maybe.
But that's an act of war. What do you mean?
Well, no, you're self-preservation if someone's trying to threaten you with a brick.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if it came to the point where the rural areas were saying we are seceding outright, there's no question. And then, like, New York City, for instance, has no food. And, like, their water source comes from the north. So if the rest of New York State said, we don't have anything to do with your crackpot cult, the city would muster up its 30,000 strong police force and say, yeah, no, you're not taking our water.
I think you've got to try to negotiate a little bit better than that. I mean, Brexit took a long time. I think that there are ways that you can start to weasel your way out of some of these agreements, but it's going to take time. I don't think it's just going to be, hey, I'm out.
But I don't think that
that's
Brexit
realistic.
actually accomplished anything in the long term. Like, I
Well-
think the whole thing is just like, if Brexit was a nice vase and the point was to move the vase from one shelf to another, they threw it on the ground and shattered it.
Sure. I want to do a better job than that, but I do think that it can be done. I am hopeful.
I think the only way it happens is if it's the left that secedes.
I would love that, and I would welcome it.
If it was Washington, Oregon, and California who declare, like when Trump gets reelected in 2024, let me say that again. When Trump gets reelected in 2024, the West Coast may likely make those moves.
I'm a big supporter of Cal exit. I was before when I lived there in California, even though I was like, it's not going to work out well for me. But, you know, if it does, I'll end up moving.
I'd much prefer if the West Coast were to try to secede, I'd much prefer that Donald Trump muster the National Guard to occupy them through military force, remove their governments, and recreate constitutional law in these places, and then maybe a Reconstruction era.
I don't want to compel anyone to stay with me if they want to leave. I want to
Do you know
let them go.
that in the Civil War, the view of Northerners was that the people in the South were being manipulated and controlled, and that they needed to go down and fight to liberate them from this corrupt ideology of the slave owners?
Horrendously sad.
Yeah. And then, of course, the South were legit, like, super racist and writing about how slavery was a large component of the new Confederacy.
I think
despite the fact most people fighting didn't care about it.
I think what's great now is we have the information age, and so it's easier to share information and get the truth out.
All right, let's read some more. Jack Hammer says, Tim, Biden illegally forcing FDIC to cover SVB is because China has a few billion in SVB, plus Pelosi and her nephew have millions in SVB. No brainer. Agreed. So, you know what we should start doing? We should start preparing a party for when Donald Trump gets reelected in 2024.
Fun.
Yeah. And then when he doesn't, they'll come back to this video and take those clips as if I was being completely serious. I'm just trying to antagonize the left. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Trump's really going to win, but I do think he's right now, based on everything that's going on, Trump is, based on what's happening right now,
Okay.
March 16th, 2023, I do not see a path for anyone but Trump. However, considering the fact that we're a year and a half away, a lot of variables in there.
Yeah, we
So-
spend time in Congress. Vivek Ramaswamy's brilliant.
So he's throwing cold water on DeSantis.
DeSantis lacks the X factor. Trump going to East Palestine and order McDonald's is the X factor.
It is.
Trump saying he's going to start a women's basketball team with a bunch of dudes identifying as women is the X factor. Is that what he did? He said something like that. He's going to start a women's basketball team
So
with a bunch of guys on it.
is DeSantis a brutal owning of Disney not the equivalent of Donald Trump's X Factor? How would you compare the two?
I don't think he owns Disney. Like sometimes he spars with them.
He's a VP.
I don't mean like literally owns, like pwned them, you know.
It was good stuff. I mean, look, on a scale of 1 to 10 of presidentiality, meaning you have to be presidential to be on the chart at all.
Right.
Trump's a 10 and DeSantis is a 2.
I think
Interesting.
From a distance, I don't know Ron, but he looks uptight.
Yes, I
That's
agree.
Stodgy.
Are you?
I like
are you for
DeSantis.
DeSantis?
No. As the chair of the National Libertarian Party, I'm going to be for the Libertarian Party candidate.
Maybe like he's got your eye on
intrigued.
something.
I
I'm
would
intrigued.
much rather see a I don't know, Michael Malice, you know.
I would love if Michael Malice was able to run. I mean, he was born out of the United States, but that would be my number
Dave,
one pick for the Libertarian Party. Dave Smith, absolutely.
I mean, is he running?
No announcement yet.
No announcement yet. I
Being
mean,
very being very coy over here.
Smith Toure 2024.
Absolutely. Love
That's
it.
good, man.
Michael
I don't know.
Malice,
That's
press
tough.
secretary.
I know. The challenge is we're in a first past the post election system.
Yep.
And if I knew that if I went and voted, like if someone said I would be the judge of the presidency and I would pick who the president's going to be, Dave Smith.
Sure.
No question. Done. Libertarian. But we're in a first past the post system, meaning I actually like Donald Trump. I don't think he's all that bad. I think Dave Smith would be better, but I also don't want Biden or Buttigieg or anybody else to win.
Ugh. Okay, so how about this? If Donald Trump is winning in a landslide, your vote doesn't matter because he's winning in Ronald Reagan numbers. Then can we maybe get a libertarian?
Yeah, but how do we know that?
Well, I'm waving a magic wand at this point.
See, the thing is, a lot of people have said to me, like, Tim, you can't keep voting for the lesser of two evils. And I'm like, I don't think Trump is the lesser of two evils.
At all.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw Trump, I didn't care for him. I thought he was a bad character and stuff. Then I actually saw what he was doing. Then I saw him do more foreign policy-wise than any president we've ever had. And I'm like, he's just good enough.
I do think he's the lesser of two evils because of Operation Warp Speed. I don't think he handled the
Yeah, fair point.
lockdowns correctly, and he also increased federal what would I call it? Federal gun.
Yeah, banning bump stocks.
Yep, just not good.
So I look at it like
Not as bad as Biden. Absolutely not.
he's the first president where I've seen a net positive despite all the massive negatives.
I think
like,
that's a reasonable take.
like I imagine a Dave Smith presidency would be like 80% positive, 20% negative.
Yeah.
Because no one can
You
be.
can't. There's no
right.
perfect presidency.
But Trump, felt was like, I don't know, 55-45 or 60-40.
Sure.
Like bump stock ban, bad things like that. But man, Abraham Accords, whew. Afghanistan withdrawal, oh boy.
Yeah.
Trying to have negotiations with North Korea.
He crossed into the DMZ, into North Korea with no security detail.
It's
that
really impressive.
was bold.
It's really
that was a
impressive.
tremendous move. Let's read some more super chats. So yeah, I mean, that's why I'm kind of like, I'll take a Trump, you know, I dig it, you know, but it's tough because a year ago I was saying DeSantis because Trump was just crying nonstop on the internet about 2020, and I was like,
really a
arms on
turn
it.
off.
But now we're starting to see that energy
Coming
come back.
yeah.
That, I got to tell you that Trump's favorability for me jumped substantially with the McDonald's in East Palestine.
I think that really was a major moment for him.
And you know what? Politicians should be taking note on that.
Seriously, DeSantis wasn't there. He couldn't be. He's not running. Vivek wasn't there. Marianne Williamson wasn't there. And I'm like, come on, any one of these people?
Joe Biden wasn't there.
Shout out to Benny Johnson, who showed up, who took the 20 grand he made that month in profit and gave it to the people.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. That's incredible.
I'm like, how is it that you gave more money than Biden did? That
I
doesn't make sense
cannot
to me.
wait for the primary debates. RFK Jr. versus Marianne Williamson.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Oh, good.
All right. Where are we with these super chats? All right. Tony Ty says, find a cure for liberalism fund and then a little golden ribbon. A cure for liberalism. The problem is liberalism is a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know. about
Liberalism is an actual academic reference to a good thing. The problem is what we refer to as liberals are weirdos. But we just use the word liberal for that.
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
That's a
It
problem.
sucks. Yep. All right. Mike E says, daily dose of wisdom. Asked AI to write a letter as Jesus to his church. AI called out the progressive church and prosperity gospel as wrong teachings. Wow.
Post a screenshot of that. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Be cool.
That is nice.
All right. Cody Schofield says, I'm Jewish. Where's my reparations from Germany, Egypt, or the Democratic Party for FDR turning the boat of Jews back during World War II?
Snap.
Didn't Germany actually pay reparations, though?
I think they have, yeah.
You just gotta call them
in
up.
like 2014, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got here? Let's grab another one. Reggae Vibe says, I'm fourth generation Californian. My wonderful state has ruined my state. Is that what it says? Was ruined my state. The locust that moved in will move onto your places too, including West Virginia. Tim, beware.
Yeah, I never encourage leftists to move out of California. I'm like, you should stay there. I'm happy for you that you've got
You're
your
just getting it the
paradise.
way you want it. Just hang out.
What's their
hold the
excuse
line.
for any of it?
For
why it's falling apart despite getting everything they ever wanted?
No joke. I have people tell me that it's too conservative. I'm being
Yeah.
dead serious.
I've heard that too.
It's not real Democrats. It's these fake Democrats who are Republicans.
Yes, I know. That's
Here's what we
the
should do.
craziest part. It's the
We should
craziest
take a couple billion, maybe 100 billion, set up a private island, and create a communist utopia for them. $100 billion. We already spent it in Ukraine. Imagine if we just did this one time and then asked every single leftist to go and live on that island in their communist utopia. We built it just for you.
I feel like then they'd be like, no, we need to stay here because you guys need to be saved from how terrible
Gulag
you are.
Archipelago 2.
I think they'd say yes.
I think some would, but I think enough would feel as though they would like be able to justify staying by saying,
And
like,
then within
you
like
need us.
6 months, they'd burn the whole thing down and kill
yeah,
each other.
yeah. It would be like Fire Island, but
Yeah.
but
It would
worse.
be like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Like Cuba.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like Cuba.
What
Castro.
precedent has been set that you think that everyone would just suddenly burn the entire place down? What
I
precedent?
think if you went to a young leftist, communist, Marxist, or whatever and said, we have decided you are right, and we're allocating funding to build a state where you can run the things the way you know they're supposed to be. And then once it works, we're going to implement it everywhere else.
Yep.
They're going to be like, we won, yay.
Oh, you
They're all going to go.
have people sign up. All those people in Chaz.
All of them. Yep, every single one. And then a year later, it will be a slum covered in
If they're
feces, and
alive
they'd all
at the
have
end of the
typhus. They'd be starving.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would collapse in 2 seconds. And then what we do is we blockade the island. You can't leave. You got food. You got like a big island. I'm not saying like a little island, like a big one. There'll be farmland and stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Like
But
you
they don't
guys,
really know how to farm, I assume.
Right.
That doesn't help them.
you guys you finally got the real socialism and real communism you always wanted. There you go.
I mean, who said
It's
they
been
need?
tried.
I don't know.
It's finally been tried.
It's officially been
Finally, real communism has been tried, and
Officially
and
been
it
tried.
would be funny if like 6 years later they're like flying to the moon in spaceships and they all have like perfect health and they can levitate and float and they're enlightened with big pulsing brains and they're like,
The meme
we have
is-
achieved peace.
The
guys
meme
didn't
is
socialism?
luxury gay space communism. That's the
Yeah. All right. Joe Spinell says, Tim, you're overdefining wokeism. Wokeism is a euphemism for useful idiot. That doesn't explain anything to anybody. An old person comes to you and says, what is this woke I keep hearing about? And you're like, basically modern liberalism. And they behave like they're in a cult. That's about it. They're violent. They're aggressive. They complain a lot.
I like to go along with the current thing because that's
Yeah.
a real basic few
That's
words.
basically what it is.
Yep.
They follow current thing with cult-like adherence.
Yep.
Modern leftist liberal culture that follows current thing. The thing is, what does current thing mean? Like it
Changes.
It is in and of itself a meme. And current thing basically means like modern narrative, whatever they're focused and fixated on. So that means they could be against the military industrial complex yesterday, but if today the news story is about being in favor of Ukraine, they will support it. It makes no sense. It's a cult. There you go. Track Media only says woke is multiple ideologies. That is why they eat each other when one steps out of the other's ideals. But that's the point. How can woke be multiple things at once? It's because it's not. It's not any of these things. That's why you can be woke without actually knowing or understanding any of the ideologies. Like if someone walked up to you and started talking about non-binary cartoons and how you're a bigot, you'd call them woke. Mm-hmm. But then if you asked them about anything related to postmodernism, critical theory, they'd say, I have no idea what you're talking about. You could even ask them about schools. They might even say that stuff shouldn't be in schools. Okay, well, how is that? Because they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's more of a behavioral description.
It's like
It's
a
compliance
snowball.
and control. Yeah.
Snowball going downhill and catching all these things in it.
All right. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, talking to a bud last night, we're like so happy to be raised in an era, in an era, 80s, 90s, where racism was a thing of the past. America was moving on. Now it's a complete-ish show. Can we please go back? I don't think racism was a thing of the past in the 80s and 90s. I think it was really bad. You had the crack epidemic, the CIA, and all the stuff
The
they did.
riots, Rodney King riots.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a period, I think, in the end of the 2000s where things were getting decently better. And then Obama came in and was like, I'm going to make it all worse.
Yep.
And then he did.
Yep.
And everybody, you look at the polls, people believe Obama actually made things worse.
Hope and change.
Yep.
Thanks, Obama.
I think it was blowing up kids. Obama came in and said, you vote for me, I'm going to blow up kids. And then they voted for him and he blew up kids.
He did.
And then in 2012, he was like, I know you liked it the first time. You vote for me again, I'm going to blow up more kids. And everyone was like, yeah. And they're holding signs saying blow up kids.
Yep.
That was the whole Obama presidency
Plus race
for me.
wars. Woo.
Yeah.
Yay.
Blowing up kids.
Yeah, thanks, Obama. I'm gonna make t-shirts like that, actually.
He blew up kids, man.
Yeah, he did.
A lot of them. That's crazy. Not like Trump did, don't get me wrong. Just Obama was worse.
It's weird. That's a weird thing to want to get elected to do.
I mean, Obama didn't literally say, vote for me and I'll blow up kids. But he literally blew up kids like a week within getting elected the first time.
It was on his mind. He knew he was doing it and he kept on doing it.
I mean, Abdul Rahman Al-Awlaki is the definitive, he blew up a kid.
We're both doing the Bill Clinton thumb. Have you know?
Well, I mean, Obama,
Obama
did that
did too.
Did
yeah.
he do it too?
Yeah, that's why I was doing it. Listen,
I noticed it with Bill Clinton.
Seamus,
I mean, who do you
Seamus-
think he learned it from?
Yeah.
Seamus had the best line. We were talking about it. He was like, too many. He's like, you vote for me, we're gonna blow up kids. Too many of them. Got to blow them up. And I'm like, that's a good one. You got to make that cartoon, Seamus. All right. Where are we at with these super chats? We just had one. It just jumped because YouTube likes doing it. All right. Get a pair with Sully says, I'm a Minnesota Mises Caucus member, and I'll be speaking at the Minnesota House Elections Committee tomorrow. Minnesota Dems made a bill to keep third parties off the ballots and major party status, SF 1827 and HF 2802. How is that legal?
These people suck. These people suck. They do this all the time. They tried to do it in Texas recently. They are desperate to stay in positions of power. They don't want to get knocked off. They're very much afraid to lose to the other side. So what I'm doing with the Libertarian Party and Rage Against the War Machine rally group is we're launching Operation Warhawk to ruin some of the worst neocons and warhawks in their primary election season. And people who do this kind of crap, they're going to be under my eye as well. Viral
Right
media
on.
campaign, wreck them.
All right. Pablo Papano says Ian turns the frogs gay. Graphene is new seed oil.
Frog's hot for that.
All right, everybody. If you hadn't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and become a member over at timcast.com because we need your support. As members, you help make this whole operation run smoothly, and all of our dreams and goals for expansion and fighting the culture war can only be possible if you guys believe in us as well. So if you do believe in us and you want to see us fight even harder and do more, become a member. Because I'll tell you this, if we had like $10 million overnight, I'd hire like 70 people instantly. But it's not that easy. You know, tracking budgets, making sure we have enough in, you know, right now with ad rates dropping, it's like, okay, so expansion is going to slow and a lot of things we want to do are going to are slowed up, and it's already been difficult enough. But, you know, it is what it is. Hey, there's another option that I know everyone's going to say no to, selling a portion of the company for a large influx of investment so that we can rapidly launch new projects. But the problem is investors come in and they can taint the company. So we're in a difficult position where we have a serious opportunity for investment because the company is so successful. But the problem then is ceding control outside of just me could result in the company going, like, getting tainted. And so that just means we move more slowly. If everybody who watched this show, every single person became a member, we would be the biggest media company overnight. I'm not even kidding. If every single unique viewer who watched the show signed up, which doesn't happen, we would be the biggest media company on the planet. Period. No question. No question at all. But, you know, that it is what it is. I think Netflix has like tens of millions of subs, you know, paying members. So they get to make whatever they want all the time. It's good news that they're getting rid of the woke stuff. But anyway, become a member. We're going to have that members only show coming up. Smash the like button, share the show. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Angela, do you want to shout anything out?
Absolutely. If you're interested in joining the Libertarian Party, please go and visit lp.org. I'm going to be speaking in Austin, Texas next month at the INC, Independent National Convention. So if you're interested in getting in politics and you hate the two parties and you're still skeptical of the LP, come on down to that April 3rd through 5th. You can find me on Patreon, Substack, and Locals.
Right on.
Cool. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. You should follow at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. It's the best. You see work from me and all of our other journalists. If you want to follow me personally, you can follow me on Twitter at HCBrimlow. And you can also follow me on Instagram at hannahclaire.b. Beware of imposters.
Oh, yeah. hannahclaire.bb, I hear, was an imposter account.
And B1. They give out crypto advice, so I guess if you want that girl's take.
So just report those accounts if you see it's hannahclaire.b.
I reported it, and Instagram is still like, well, we're thinking about it. We're not sure yet.
We'll look into who you are.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, Angela, you mentioned TakeHumanActionTour.com. I'll be speaking in May 13th in Oakland. So if you guys want to get tickets for that, it's TakeHumanActionTour.com. And also I have another speaking engagement coming up at the Minds Fest in April 15th. That's going to be in Austin. We'll be doing a live IRL the night before, and then we'll be doing stage work on the 15th. So you can get tickets there at Vulcan. It's tickets.vulcanpresents.com, and you'll have to search for the dates. It's April 15th, and I'll see you there.
And I am Serge.com. I'm going to zoom in really fast here. Nah, that's taking too long.
That's not really fast.
Too long. Yeah. Anyways.
All right, well, we got news. Discord is ready and is about to go public.
Solid.
So the official Discord for Timcast.com members, if you sign up at $10, you'll get access to the general chat. If you are a member of Timcast.com for longer than 6 months, you should have instant access to the VIP suite. If you want to join the VIP suite, it's $25 a month. We got to figure out how that works because I'm sure after 6 months of being a member at $25, you could drop down or something, but we'll have to figure out how that works. The point is we just want to keep out, you know, activists who are trying to attack us, weirdos who are trying to put fake things in there and then smear us. So we needed some kind of gates time or money. We tried both because we want to be as fair as possible. And then we're going to have the $100 per month elite VIP club members only, where we will have Timcast employees hanging out. You can talk to people who work here. And then we're trying to make that something bigger. So it's not just a Discord chat room. It will be like a component of our private club so that we can build some kind of community that, you know, does something more. You know, maybe I don't know. We'll figure it out. There could be advice. We can send pitches and things like that. We got to figure it out. But yeah, that club should be there and it should be live in the next few minutes. I don't exactly know how that works or how you get access to it because they just finished it right now while I'm sitting here. But I'm sure once I get up and go look, they'll be like, oh yeah, just tell people to do this. And it should be fairly obvious. So we'll have that set up live momentarily. So please become a member if you want to hang out. It'll be a 24/7 chat hangout and it will be moderated. We do have rules. The purpose of the Discord server is to have legitimate academic conversations on cultural issues, policy, and things that are impacting our world for the better or for the worse, to share news and ideas. I will use it as a resource. So if you're a member of the Elite Club and you want me to cover a story, I might not know a story's happening. You could send it to me. I could be like, whoa, I didn't know that. And other Timcast writers might see that stuff as well. Not to mention, like, the VIP room, which is time or money gated, you can voice chat for the after show too. So we're really excited about that. I'm legitimately excited for that component because that's going to be really awesome.
Is this tonight? Is it ready, you think, tonight to voice chat?
No, because we have to get it. It's ready to go live for people to sign up, but I don't think we have it yet on our system.
Cool.
But then for the members only uncensored stuff, we could have some crackpot weirdo. Like the goal with the gate, either money or time, is to prevent crackpot weirdos. Because we don't want some like far leftist coming in and then being like Baba Booey, Howard Stern's penis or whatever. Although that'd be kind of funny. But like we don't want to say something crazy. But the point is, it'll be on the uncensored show. So maybe, who cares? It might be funny if Antifa showed up and said some weird crap and we could argue with them. That'll be fun. So I'm really excited for this. We're gonna head to get the members only set up right now. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all there.